Hi, friends.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back. I've been on vacation. So Kate has had lots of time to read two very tiny books.
I've read them like 3 times each.
They're so good.
Yeah, I've listened to them a couple times.
They're very rereadable.
Yes.
And you get different stuff out of it every time you read it.
Well, and I will say, I don't think sci-fi is my easy read drama or genre. And so it was hard for me to listen and really compute what was happening. So I really had to listen and read them simultaneously to get the goods. And I was not, when you shared this book, I was not expecting it to be so funny. These books are hilarious.
Murderbot is hysterical.
They're really funny.
He's
they're
so
comedy
dry.
books.
He's so dry.
I know.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very, they are. I literally took notes because I was like, oh, I want to read that because it was my favorite part of the book is one of the funniest parts of the book.
It's one of the few Kindle books I've spent time to highlight, to actually put highlights in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm Rachel.
I'm Kate.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. There, now I have a place
Roll
to put
that beautiful bean footage.
Now I have a place to put
the sound music, which I like her sound music. Your sound music.
Is it hot in here or is it just me tuning in to hear these three chatting about fantasy novels of the spicy variety? Not your average book club, if you know what I mean. Are you happy to see us? Or is that a dagger? It's feast, sheath, shatter. It's feast, sheath, shatter.
Oh wait, let me go to my
I commissioned it, so I guess it's mine.
on Fiverr.
Yeah.
I love that thing.
Which my prompt was, I want it to sound like the opening credits from Lady Hawk and Enigma had a baby with the soundtrack from Labyrinth.
I love Enigma. My dad used to play Enigma and the Last Mohican soundtrack all the time when I was little.
They're good.
They're so... Aren't they the ones that are like, I don't want to do it? The Return to Innocence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to start singing. But
Yeah.
I'm going to spare everybody. So we started with All Systems Red.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about how you were introduced to these books and why you love them.
Well, Matt read them.
Okay.
And he was like, you would really like these books. And I was like, meh. Usually when he tells me I'm going to really like these books, they're like 500,000 pages. And it's just a bunch of dudes with swords that are a metaphor for their dick.
You would really love the entire Wheel of Time series.
Just walking around doing dude stuff. Like Matt's go-to main character is the morally gray cowboy dude bro who's better than everybody, smarter than everybody. The rules don't apply, and he just outsmarts, outwits, and outfights literally everyone, and that's how he progresses the plot. And I've pointed this out to him, and he's like, look, it's fine. I have a type.
Yeah,
I mean, he loves
totally
it.
Okay.
It's good. There used to be a genre called male fiction. It's a defunct genre, obviously, but it's a very male fiction archetype where you have this the cowboy character.
It's what's his name? What was that guy that was famous? John Wayne.
Louis L'Amour. Oh, yeah, John Wayne. It's the John Wayne character.
Who's Louis L'Amour?
Louis L'Amour is a famous Western writer.
Like a spaghetti Western?
Well, he wrote books.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But that's his go-to main character.
Liam Neeson. Clint Eastwood.
Right.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
The whole John Wick.
The guy that does
whole genre.
John Wick. Oh, Keanu.
Yeah. I mean, I love John Wick too. So
yeah,
I can't be too mad about that one.
No.
But I mean, he's all doing it because of his somebody killed his wife and his wife died and then somebody killed his puppy. I mean, as motivations go, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that motivation.
No.
But anyway, when he recommended these books, I thought, no, I'm not gonna. No. And then I went away for a girls' weekend with a friend, and I was like, well, I'll give Murderbot a shot. So I read the first one, and I was like, holy fucking shit, I love Murderbot. And I bought and read all the rest of them.
Yeah, does your son have your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just sent you a meme. It's okay. It's a Murderbot meme.
Wow, you found a Murderbot meme? There's not enough Murderbot. Like, I was trying to find some good Murderbot
Here,
memes.
I'll show it to you. I'll pass it over while I say this thing. You can tell Murderbot was written by a woman. Isn't that funny?
I'll put it on the Instagram.
I saw it. I sent it to you. I found it on Reddit. There's a Murderbot Reddit, subreddit. Okay. So I was reading through it to see what other people were saying, and I was like, okay, great, we all agree. Yeah, we're all saying the same things. But oh my god, what were we just talking about?
Martha Wells.
Oh right,
yeah.
You can tell. I can tell, or I could feel. I was like, this is written by a really funny, introverted woman, or someone who understands that.
She's our people. Like, she has published Star Wars novels. She has published Stargate Atlantis novels. Yes. She is a huge nerd.
But she knows how to write about she's so connected to humanity. I'm like, is this a robot or is this like a person?
Right.
Unbelievably.
Although Murderbot would hate it if you defined it as a person.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
He does not want, or they don't want to approach that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
No. In fact, Murderbot actively tries to distance itself from the whole, which I'll use it because he uses everyone who refers to Murderbot uses it. Murderbot only ever refers to Murderbot as Murderbot. Which that's its private name, which I love. Yeah. So somebody outs him.
Garathan.
Yeah, he outs Murderbot's name, and Murderbot's like, that was private. Like,
that was private.
That was private.
Yeah, he's so angry.
Yeah.
That was private. Why don't you start us off with where we start?
Well, you just start on like a regular job. So Murderbot is a security robot, a Secunit. Which I love her naming convention. She keeps this kind of funky naming convention where she just chunks out words and sticks them together. So sometimes it gets a little, okay, now what is that again? And you have to kind of, because I also don't read a ton of sci-fi, so it's not like native. Where if I read a fantasy thing, I'm like, oh, okay, I can just
go along with it.
I'll just slot that in. No problem.
Farah.
But he's a sec unit, right? Like security unit. It. I'm gonna.
It. Yeah, you got it.
It is a sec. I said he, but
well, there's some grace there.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. We're gonna stick to. I'm gonna try to stick to it for Murderbot. So Murderbot is a sec unit, which I've said several times now, but it works as a extension of the security system. That I love all the corporations that they bond. Like, people will go on explorations, and so they hire, they rent equipment. Yeah. And so they rent equipment from these huge corporations.
And they have to buy insurance on every trip they go. Because the likelihood that something will happen to them is very high.
Right. And so they have to provide, the company provides security, which the company is also listening to everything they do and data mining all of their stuff for information. So it's very relevant, timely. Yeah. To where nothing is private. That's why they force them to take so much stuff, is partly because they don't want to pay out that bond, and also partly because they want to make money on the back end selling their proprietary information that they're able to glean just by listening to stuff that goes on in the hub. And so SecUnit has a governor module, which is supposed to
regulate his
behavior. It doesn't change their thoughts. It doesn't change. It doesn't make them less sentient. It just forces them to obey like a code of conduct.
Yep. Like really strict boundaries.
Which I think Mensa describes it as a hellish compromise, because the sec units have to be smart enough to be able to do their job, but they're so smart they require corralling. They require a governor module to keep them from
becoming
murdering
fully
everybody.
Intellectual sentient beings.
Right.
Because they assume, whoever created them assumes that if we give them free will, they will be murdering crazy robots. You can't have crazy robots running around.
They're nearly indestructible. And it has guns built into its arms, which I love the part where Guathrin is provoking Secunit. It's provoking Murderbot. And he threatens him. He says, I could punish you just by looking at you. And Murderbot goes, yeah, probably up until the point where I remember I have guns built into my arms.
Yeah, and then Menza's like, haha, do you see? He threatened you and didn't actually provoke any violence. Yeah. It's wild watching. Oh, well, you're the one that normally brings this up, but this is written in first person past tense.
Yes, yeah, because as we find out at the end of the first novella, it is a record. He's recording this information.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is wild watching. He is so the entire time it is such this casual, humorous walkthrough of what is happening. And so immediately it feels, even though they're building this world that is super sci-fi and there's all these terms, and I had a hard time listening to it when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is just really funny. And it's immediately sarcastic.
Yeah.
And dry and self-aware and emotional.
Yeah. Very much so.
You're not a robot. And two, so it's a clone, half clone, right?
It's cloned organic material, which
is based off a person.
It's like they take a genetic makeup, but he wasn't a person.
Right, but he is.
It wasn't a person. It was always just cloned material and robot.
And they clone them from different beings, so they all look different.
They all look slightly different, but they're all like the same height. They all have the same hair.
Build, yeah. Yep. And I think, so we start on this planet and we meet it.
Yeah, and the first line, from the very first line in the novel, it strikes the tone.
Yep.
Yeah, which I read an interview with Martha Wells, and she said the first thing that came to her was like Murderbot's voice. Murderbot's like sarcastic, dry way that it sees the world. That was the first thing she thought of.
It's almost like a teenager that wants to live in its room.
Yeah.
That just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Like almost like Daria.
That when we first meet him, it's trying to figure out how to watch TV or stream music without anyone noticing because it's bored and it doesn't
And it doesn't have to put that much energy into doing its job.
Right.
It's so good and like competent. And that's the thing. It radiates competency. It's so good at its job that it can literally give like 10% towards its job.
Yeah.
And it says that. It's like, I'm lazy and I'm going to stand over here and watch my media.
Yeah.
I have never related to a character so much. Like, I just want to dissociate all day long.
Yeah.
Like, same. Me too. Yeah. I will straight up be at the office in my back cubby, like reading a book like I'm supposed to be doing real estate, which I do, but I'm also like reading a book or doing something else while I'm trying to. Anyways, totally relate to that. But we meet him. That's really hard.
It is hard.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, what we're gonna do when we get to Tay and Tur.
Oh yeah, I love it, and I love the way that gender is not relevant in her books.
Well, and it also the marriage units.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I should have been reading this book.
They're all group marriages.
Group marriages, 4 kids. There's like perfectly normal.
Yeah.
No gender identity. Like gender identities are an entire spectrum, and there's not like 1 or 2. There's like 4.
And it took me several rereadings to get everybody's genders straight because Murderbot could give less of a shit.
Yeah, he doesn't care. They don't care at all.
They don't care. It doesn't care at all what anybody's gender is at all. We get more of it later because it, we'll read everybody's feed tags because there's this like feed which isn't explained, which I love. I love it when we just leave things nebulous.
Feed?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Like, what does the feed look like to you? Because I'll tell you what it looks like to me.
Just like a continuous like biofeedback interaction between everybody.
In their head.
In their heads.
To me, it's like a chat board.
Right.
It's like Instagram in your head.
But they can hear each other's voices. And people have to, he calls it subvocalizing, where people will like speak without moving their lips, but he'll like see their jaws moving. And so it knows they're talking on the feed. We're going to try for it. I'm going to try for it. But like the books, I know I've listened to the audiobooks. They're read by a guy.
They are.
So it's hard to
its physical features are androgynous, but lean towards a male body type.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any parts. It doesn't see itself as a gender.
It doesn't want to.
Right.
And in fact, there are comfort units, which he calls sex bots.
Yeah.
And
he's a little judgy.
It's a little judgy.
It's a lot judgy.
It does not like sex bots.
I actually wrote that down, that it's a little bit judgy.
Yeah.
And also has a lot of guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Like, where'd your guilt and shame come from? Who, I don't know if we're going to learn this, but I kind of want to know, like, who created them? Who developed them? Is there a reason why they're so dry and sarcastic? And what is special about this Secunit that is so good?
Yeah. She's not done. Martha Wells isn't done.
Okay, so maybe we will get some of that.
We've got a couple more coming.
Okay.
So hopefully we get a little bit more.
A little answer to why it is such a... It basically does the opposite of what... So it basically says it's naturally good.
Yeah.
And art... Oh, okay. So
I love art.
trying to go in some sort of chronological order.
Yeah. Stick to the first one.
Okay, so we're starting off on this planet. Secunit is doing its job. We find out that it calls itself a murderbot.
Yeah.
Because he's hating itself all the time.
Yeah. Well, at some point in the past, it murdered
57 people.
Yeah. And
it thinks it's his fault.
It doesn't know why. It thinks that something happened with its governor module and that it killed all of its clients, which he has a certain attachment. It has a certain attachment to its clients. Unless they're total assholes, it does make at least like a 10% effort. 15.
It's almost
to try
only
to keep
motivated to do its job, but it rationalizes all these other things.
Yeah.
But even
because
when
it doesn't want to know it cares.
It does. But it so cares.
Yeah.
And it cares a lot.
Yeah.
And it cares with... After it kills 57 people, and its response to that is, well, I don't trust the people who built me, so I need to undo what they did so that I can control myself better.
Yeah.
To be a better Secunit.
Right.
So we're on this planet. We get this description of this like kind of tropical foresty kind of thing. There's all these craters, and then there's two scientists on this team that he has been charged with guarding, and their names, I wrote them down, are Baradwaj?
I don't know. I
don't know.
Read it.
And Valescu.
Yeah.
So we'll call them V and B.
Yeah.
So V and B are like they're scientists.
They're getting samples.
They're actually really, really good people too. And they're getting samples, and all of a sudden there's a giant explosion.
Which I pictured like from Tremors.
I pictured the worm from Dune.
Okay.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So you pictured a graboid.
Yeah.
And I pictured, what's the like spiritual name for the Dune?
Shai-Hulud.
Yes. I pictured that because when he said he was in its mouth, and its arm got all messed up.
Yeah,
so
cilia. He's like, is it a
cilia?
cilia? What is that? Is that a tooth? He's like, it's watching the replay in its own mind of what happened. Like, what did I do?
Yeah, which it constantly is more comfortable watching what's happening from a security camera than its own eyes.
Yeah. Yes.
That's so funny. Yeah, so you... Shai-Hulud or the graboid come, and then all of a sudden immediately jumps on it. We have... Normally, the Secunits are connected to the hub unit.
Yeah, the like the hub sec system or whatever, the hub security system,
which is connected to the habitat, right?
Right.
And then there's also there's another system, the med unit.
Yeah, there's a med system, there's a hub system, and there's a security system,
and they're all kind of like interwoven together.
Right.
So it immediately jumps on it. grabs V and B. B is like dying.
Yeah.
It can't drop her.
Right.
Because it doesn't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Immediately goes into savior mode. V is stunned.
Yeah.
And
Freaking out.
in shock. And like cannot cope. And what does our Murderbot friend do?
Well, he always has armor on, which it likes because it makes it look like a robot, which it prefers to be thought of as a robot. So it can't calm the guy down with the robot face. So it retracts the helmet so that because it has a human face. Murderbot looks like a person, looks like a human. And so it uses that empathy to talk the guy out. And it doesn't realize until it watches the playback, but it like chats him up the whole way up the crater.
So do you have any kids?
Do you have any kids? He's like, oh shit. Did I really ask if he had kids?
Straight up nurture self, like soothing this person in shock, which at one point, Dr. Menza, who is kind of the best.
Yeah.
And the leader of the scientific team, points to the fact that it's not really trained to do that.
Right.
Anyways,
and it's like, I have a module about that.
Yeah.
It's always like it always comes up with these vague responses. It's like, well, it's security protocols. And then it's like, well, that'll satisfy them. I don't know what that means, but they don't know either.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
So, and we, the scientists, they don't know at all that he's rogue, that he's disconnected from his governor.
Yeah.
And it's just automatically still doing all the things that they would have asked it to do.
Yeah.
So,
well, no one can know.
Yeah, because then he'll get turned off.
Yeah,
he'll get disconnected. What does he say? He says, oh shit. He says something like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
there's a moment.
Something about it's organic parts and its robot parts will be separated, and one will go in the trash and the other will go in the recycler. It's like I won't survive it. If they find out that I have hacked my governor unit, I'm toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it loses like 20% of its body mass. Everybody jumps onto these hoppers, which are like helicopters.
Yeah.
And they make it back. And the scientist team are like, that isn't a robot.
They're like, I didn't know it had a human face.
Yeah.
And Murderbot's like, I gotta go to my room. Just goes to his room.
Goes to his room. Immediately plugs in to rebuild because they're indestructible. He's lost 20%. And Dr. Menza comes in and it's like, are you okay? Which it's always super uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Any human interaction.
Like, yeah, I'm fine. And something in me is leaking or whatever. It's like,
I hate that.
Yeah.
It hates it. It hates it when it's leaking, which to me, I'm like, is that like blood?
I think it has bleeding? Blood and fluid. It has like blood and gross. Hydraulic robot fluid, I guess. Robot fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It refers to itself, its excretions as fluid, but it also mentions that it looks like blood. Because it does have organic parts. It has a brain.
Yeah, part of its... and I wanted to ask you about that. Like, part of its brain is organic.
Yeah.
But it would have to be for it to have such a clear conscience.
Yeah.
Because it has a conscience.
Yeah, and it mentions that that's part of the problem with them is because they're too expensive to regrow and replace. But if they need their memory wiped, you can't wipe the organic parts.
Yep.
So it's traumatic. It's traumatic for them because they literally forcibly remove these memories from their organic brains, but they can't do it completely. So you always have this ghost of the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not, the constructs are a lot, I think they are a lot more human than they realize because they're never rogue.
Yeah. Well, they don't ever think about it.
Yeah.
Because they're just equipment.
There's no representation.
Right.
On the media feeds.
Yeah.
On the entertainment feeds. So anyways, when it wakes up and is healed.
Yeah.
It immediately starts watching the security cameras and it sees them all talking. And they're all like, why is this giant fauna on this planet
And we didn't know.
and we didn't know. Like, that's not normal. Normally, the company who bonded them. And is that when we learned that they're a political, that Dr. Menza's a politician?
No, we don't find that out till later. Not much later, because Murderbot is like, well, why are they all after you? I mean, you're not that important.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like, didn't you read the file? And he's like, yeah, no, I didn't.
I don't know who you are.
They're
like, don't you know who we are?
I didn't give a shit. So I didn't fucking read it. He's like, I deleted it and I put more media in that spot. That's what I did.
So we kind of get this like mystery.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out like, why is this happening that we don't know about? And meanwhile, we're also getting this glimpse at Murderbot as it refers to itself. And the way it hates interacting with everybody. Like, it just wants to go, like, it wears an opaque helmet.
Yeah.
And it's so uncomfortable without it. It feels so exposed, so vulnerable. Can't stand it.
And so it puts on like sweatpants and a hoodie and goes into the room with them because they've summoned it, and it knows it has to get there as soon as possible. And so it doesn't feel like it has time to get its armor. And as soon as it gets there, it's like, shit, I should have taken time to get my armor, because they're all looking at it, and it won't look at anybody. I think at one point it actually turns and goes in the corner and is like facing into the corner and is just watching everybody through the security cameras.
Yep.
And so they're discussing, do you think this was hacked? Is this deliberate? And so they figure out that it was, something is missing. Parts of the map are missing.
And like, this scientist team is from this place called
Preservation.
Yes. And they are literally the most calm and liberal, I don't know a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Just open-minded academics that where they come from, any sentient being or robot is a person.
Yeah.
And they immediately start treating it like a person.
Yeah.
And
it hates every fucking minute of it, too.
It can't stand it.
Yeah. They ask it to stay. They're like, do you want to stay and hang out? And it's like, oh shit, I didn't control my expression because it just looks horrified. And they're all like, well, I mean, but if you want to go, that's fine.
And meanwhile, they're having these like sub conversations that it doesn't know about, where they're like, it's not ready. You have to be really gentle with it. You can tell that they've all like coached each other on how to talk to Murderbot and how to address it, and that it's not ready to learn or understand. It is not ready to be a person.
It can't hang. Yeah. No,
it
it's a little bit like Nesta at the beginning of Court of Silver
Flames. It doesn't
Flames.
want respect.
It can't hang right now, okay? Don't tell it any more than it needs to know.
Yeah. So then what do we learn? Oh, then they figure out that there's this map. And there's all these pieces.
There's missing pieces. Something is missing. Information is missing from the file. Parts of the map are missing. So then they hop in the hopper, which I pictured like the hoppers from Dune.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. And
they look like dragonflies.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they hop over to one of the missing sections and take samples. And he spends the entire time keeping them from wandering into hazards because their maps are malfunctioning, like nothing is working. And while they're in the hopper, the autopilot goes out. And luckily Mensa's sitting right there and she just takes over control. But Secunit's like, well, that's really strange that it went out. And also previously he mentioned when the giant creature came out of the crater, he got some kind of an abort command. But since he didn't have to follow it, he didn't. He just backburnered it, but what he calls it.
And it didn't even think about it.
No.
It was just like, that's weird.
Yeah, it figured it was some kind of miscommunication between
it's
hub
always
system
giving
and
things
sex
the benefit
system.
of the doubt.
I love that it anthropomorphizes everything. All of the software it interacts with, everything. It gives it like feelings, thoughts, emotions.
Names, really funny names.
No matter how complex. Eventually, this isn't really a spoiler, but he goes on a ship it's just like the most basic of bot pilots. It literally is just enough information for it to take it from one place to the next and then from that place and back. That's it. And he names it Ship. And he's like, I like Ship. Ship's my friend. Ship's not complicated, but we don't have to talk because Ship can't talk. Ship is so basic. Ship can't talk to him, or talk to it. But Murderbot sees literally everything as like a sentient thing that it interacts with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I imagine you would if you were an incredibly sentient, like, being. Your whole, like, if someone told you that you were a square, but you were a circle your whole life, you would just assume that all squares were circles.
Yeah.
And so
That's exactly how he views everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's so much more complex.
Yeah.
Or like 2D and 3D, right? So like he's 3D,
Yeah.
and he's been told his whole life he's 2D. So of course he's gonna attribute those same qualities because he's thinking everybody's got to be this 3D thing.
And that's one of the things I love about this book is on the surface, the first time you read it through, it feels it's funny. He's funny. He's a funny character. There's sarcasm. There's action. There's stuff that happens. And it's interesting. And then the more you read it and the more you really dig into all of it, it's such a multi-leveled exploration of what it's like to be a conscious being that no one believes is a conscious being.
Yeah.
And how do you live in a world where you are literally not allowed to be you? You are expected to not be you. You are expected to be a robot. And you've spent your entire life being expected to be a robot. And nothing is going to change that. There's literally nowhere you can go.
But you're actually not really a robot.
Right.
I mean, you're part robot. And and there's a really beautiful piece, and I think he says it in book 1, or it says it in book 1, where it's like, I'm a whole thing that's always confused.
Right. He says people think of my organic parts and my robot parts as discrete, when really I'm just one whole confused being.
And that is so same.
Yeah.
And I don't have any robot parts. I kind of wish I had it.
He
I
has
wish
a
I had
lot
an
of
internal feed.
He has a lot of people think I'm supposed to know what I want because I'm supposed to be simple. I'm just supposed to be a program. I'm supposed to know what my program wants. But I have no fucking clue. I don't know. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know. I don't know who I would be or what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And only a whole robot without the organic piece, without the part of the brain, without the clone material would follow the rules. It would be writable. It would be zeros and ones.
Yeah.
This guy ain't zero. That's not zeros and ones.
No.
It's zeros and ones with all of this, with like a human hand deciding where the zeros and ones go. Of course it's going to turn its governor off.
Right.
And why aren't more doing it?
Well, because he figures out how to do it, but the others, no.
It's the traumatic experience.
Yeah, it never meets another one that has figured out how to do it. And the sad part is it can't trust any other sec units. So it can't share the information with other sec units, because if another sec unit is ordered to tell someone that, like if he tells another sec unit that he has a hacked governor module, anyone could order that sec unit to tell them, and it would have to tell them. It wouldn't have a choice.
Yeah. And yeah.
And so he literally can't, not only is he conscious, he's alone. He can't trust anyone. He can't tell any other construct because they're all beholden to human influence. They all have to do what people tell them to do.
Company influence. They have to report to the company.
Yeah, which we find out later that every time he says the company, he's saying the name of the company, but in all of his records, he edits it out
to say
the company.
Oh,
and so there's a funny little snippet where he's talking to someone and they're like, why do you do that? Why do you change the name of the company? It's like, you just did it just now. You changed what I said. You changed it from the company to the company. And he's like, Murderbot, end of transmission.
Did that happen in these books?
No, it's later.
Oh, okay. I was like, I missed that.
Yeah.
But I missed stuff. So my reading comprehension is...
It's not really a spoiler.
I feel like if you can read in pictures like you do, your reading comprehension's better, which is why I will find out how. Yeah, but so where do we go from here? Then
they go back and
there's they're
people, talking to the other group. There's another group. Deltfall, right? Deltfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're talking to Deltfall.
It's another survey team.
Yeah, and they're both trying to kind of figure out what's going on. Why are there holes? Where's all the information?
They know something's wrong, but they're just scientists, so they don't think anything's really like malignant at this point. Yeah. So they jump on the hopper. Oh, God. One of the funniest things about the is he always describes how humans are constantly trying to kill themselves.
Yes.
And his entire job
It's like children.
is trying to corral humans from making really shitty decisions that are going to get themselves hurt.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, let's jump in the big hopper. We'll leave a couple people home and we'll go over and see the Delta people who are on a literal another continent.
Yeah.
It would be like if we left North Carolina tomorrow and went to Africa tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he's like, let's get in the hopper and go. And he's like, do you know how much water we're going to go over? Like, it's not really a great idea. The stats aren't great.
Yeah.
But his job is to keep them alive.
Yeah.
So they go over there.
And he's like, for sure, all these people are dead. Like, before they even leave, Murderbot.
He's like, this isn't right.
We get
Something's
another
wrong.
one of my favorite lines where it says, well, you notice that when I do manage to care, I'm a pessimist.
Yeah. And it's so self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get there and sure enough, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
And we get to meet some more Secunits.
Yeah.
And they are also rogue Secunits at this
They
point.
are overridden.
Combat modes?
Yeah, they
Is that what it
have
is?
a data port, kind of like Matrix style data port in the back of their neck. And so
I picture it as like a USB, but you're right. It probably is more like the...
you can insert
Matrix.
something into this data port and it will override their natural systems. It's like a virus.
Yeah. And on the way over there, he gets an update. But because he is not connected to his governor, he just always puts it away. He never updates. He never updates his software because he doesn't have to.
Well, he parses out what he wants. He'll go through it. He
He'll be
just
like, "Is
shunts
this what-
it. And
Do I need this?
he's like, no, I think I'll apply this update and update that back. And
And I'm good.
The rest. Yeah.
So this one he just like pushes away. He also doesn't like to take up too much space because he needs all the space for.
his media.
And we haven't even said it yet.
The Sanctuary Moon.
Yes, the
That's
rise and fall of Sanctuary Moon.
Yes.
Which, as a woman with a Taurus moon, who needs, I always feel really connected to our sister moon. I love the moon, and I love for my space to feel like sanctuary. I really, the sanctuary moon really resonated with me.
Well, it resonates with Murderbot because it's almost always, if it needs a moment, it rewatches its
almost
favorite
like
episodes.
Xanax.
Yeah.
And later on, once we meet Art
Yeah.
in our next story,
Yeah.
it's literally
Anytime
like,
it needs a minute, like it needs to calm down, Sanctuary Moon. And it comes up with the most creative uses for Sanctuary Moon. Like Sanctuary Moon isn't going away. It's only getting more a part of its like consciousness and its life from here on out.
Well, and as he continues to go through life as a, de-governed, as a rogue, whatever, what he's learning from all these TV shows start to help them make decisions that are good for their excursions and adventures and murder mysteries.
And I love how aware it is that this is fiction, that this depiction of people isn't real.
And that's what it likes about it.
Yeah.
Just like we like fantasy and sci-fi and can't do like real life shows. Same.
Yeah.
Like I don't want my books to be anything like real life.
Yeah.
Like I've said this before and I'm going to bring it up here. One of my biggest things about Philip Rothfuss, the Kingkiller was it Kingkiller Chronicles?
Matt read them, but
I did too. And what I really hated about it was that this wizard, magical being, had to deal with money.
yeah.
And like money, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to read about you, poor magic man. Like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
So I hear you, Murderbot.
Yeah, it hates any depictions of Secunits because they're all evil and rogue or whatever. So it hates seeing Secunits on any kind of media. And it loves all media. It reads books, it listens to music, it watches TV. Eventually Mensa takes it to like a Broadway play.
Stop, they get back together. Oops. It's okay. I was hoping that Dr. Mensa ended up being a bigger player. In my heart, I was like, can there be like a story with them? and it develop into some sort of like love, and it doesn't have to be romantic love.
Yeah.
It can just be like
Yeah, there's no romantic love, which I also love because
just connection. And
yeah, I feel like we don't explore the idea of non-intimate.
my insides melted. When she says, no, that's when I was just reading all my, and the thing I had highlight, I was just reading all my highlights from my Kindle. And the first thing I saw was my insides melted. When she says, I need you.
Yeah. And it's like,
it loves her.
It loves Dr. Mensah. And this isn't, again, not a big spoiler. Eventually it gets confronted about it.
Oh.
They're like, do you love Dr. Mensah? Because to him, or to Murderbot, all the people feel like toddlers that are literally just trying to kill themselves in their environment at all times. But it doesn't have to explain
things. Dr. Mensah, do you think it's a coincidence that Mensah, the IQ team, and Dr. Mensah are the same? Because I don't think it's a coincidence.
I don't think it's
it's really intentional. Yeah.
And then to them, Murderbot seems like a child because its emotions are so immature, and it's not immature, but its emotional expression is immature. So each side kind of views the other one as like children. And so eventually someone confronts Murderbot about it, and Murderbot goes, she's my crew.
Like, that's enough.
And it's like, I believe I have explained everything I need to say about that.
Yeah.
It's my crew.
Yeah. Like, it's my purpose. It's my function.
Yeah.
Yeah. The part of me that is written, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to our Delta Force. Deltfall. And everybody's dead. So we know that stuff's bad. And somebody tries to kill Murderbot.
And Murderbot's sad. Like, it doesn't really talk about it. But I love the in between the lines emotions that we get a lot of the time from Murderbot, because we don't get a lot of the traditional physical expressions of emotion that you get from a character. So you have to kind of extrapolate from how sarcastic it's being. And the more sarcastic it is, the more affected it is by what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And it is deeply affected by the fact that these Secunits murdered everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't do their job, and they lost, and that it can't help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they end up, the rogue the other Murderbots, end up getting him with the combat override
module. Yeah.
Right. And they get him in his little USB neck USB.
Yeah.
And Dr. Mensah, they're like, okay, flee. We got to get out of here. And Dr. Mensah's like, get on this fucking hopper right now. And he's like, okay. So then they get in the ship, and it's like, you have to kill me.
Yeah.
And it has the funniest, it's like, instead of waiting around for these soft-hearted little people to make a call, it shot itself in the chest.
Yeah.
It didn't want to kill itself because it would have taken out its head.
Yeah.
It shot itself in the chest.
Yeah.
So
it incapacitated itself.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't quite bring myself to kill me, but I can incapacitate myself.
Yeah.
And I love when it looks around, and it's like, they're so soft and sweet. And I'm going to go through them like tissue paper.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to kill all of them. And so it shoots itself in the chest. And then it wakes up.
And we get the best chapter in the whole book.
Yeah.
The best chapter in the whole book. I love chapter 6 so much. I actually reread it several times. It'll be one of my like go to sleep chapters because it's just so funny. The funniest part is I have so many highlights from that.
It's a highlightable book.
It really is. So that's when it wakes up, and they think it's incapacitated. The hub has told it it's incapacitated. And this is when we get Guaruthan?
I call him Gwathrin.
G. Mr. G. Gwathrin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guaruthan. Yeah, Guaruthan. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Who is augmented. He's an augmented human, so
right.
he can like read zeros and ones better. They're running analytics. They're running through. They've gotten the combat module out there. They have left when it realizes that they have left all of his media alone. He says the best thing ever. He goes, "My clients are the best clients." And I thought about putting that on my business page because I love it so much. I feel like that. I'm like, my clients are the best clients.
Yeah.
But just because they got rid of all the bad stuff, but they didn't touch his media.
Yep.
So
And now they know he's got a hacked governor module.
And they're talking about it, and they don't know that he's like aware. And
when they're like, there's no way he's consumed that much media in the time we've been here. And he's like, they underestimate me.
Yeah. And then my favorite line ever, and I actually would like to read it.
Go ahead.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Probably.
Sorry. Wait, let me find it.
This is the one they were trying to decide if he's actually seen Sanctuary Moon.
It is
I know. I love that.
It's the funniest part to me. I like lost it. Okay, yeah. So they're like trying to figure out. So Rothi says the one where the colony solicitor killed the terraforming supervisor who was the secondary donor for her implanted baby. They're talking about Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah.
Again, I couldn't help it. I said, she didn't kill him. That's a fucking lie. And then Rothi immediately goes,
He's watching. Yeah, it's watching.
Yeah, it's watching it.
Yeah. Because it's a soap opera. So it's deliberately complex.
So upset. It's like, I couldn't help it, but I was like, that's a fucking lie and you know it. My favorite part of the whole book. I chuckled like every time.
I love its emotional attachment to Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah.
Love it.
Don't play with me.
And there's hundreds of episodes of Sanctuary Moon, and it will put on its favorites. It'll be like, I put on Sanctuary Moon episode number 294.
Yeah. I love that Rothi, though, knew enough about it to know that was probably a very memeable moment or like something that was a lot of people, you know, it's like one of those shows where there's all this, what's the right word? Oh, give me a word.
Hype.
Or just people going back and forth on whether she did it or didn't do it. Or, you know what I mean?
Controversy or whatever.
Yeah, and like he was like, that's a fucking lie and you know it. Don't mess with me. And that's like, it proved it. And then I think it was Valescu at that point said something really like, we know that it has free will and it is still helping us.
Yeah.
It's absolutely more trustworthy.
It's like it's had free will this entire time. This isn't new. It isn't a danger now and never was before. The entire time we've been on this planet, it could have killed us, and it's literally just been watching TV.
And making sure that we're okay.
Yeah.
And like making better decisions than it would if it had been connected to its governor.
Yeah.
It would have died like 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Yeah. And they just didn't know.
The only reason they don't die is because they have it calls itself faulty.
Yeah.
It's a faulty unit. And it says the only reason they haven't died is because they have a like shitty, messed up secondhand unit like me.
Yep. Well, and you know what's funny about this book? The mystery and like the plot of each of these stories to me is kind of like secondary.
Yeah, it's
like,
fun, but it's there. It's just there to drive the interaction.
It's a mystery. Yeah. And it's good. I actually really like the length of them.
Yeah.
Because it's just enough to really like dig deep with these characters and this. I just could listen to it talk all the time.
Yeah.
So funny. So then where are we? So now we're back and they know now. And they're the entire time, this group of scientists is just like, this is a person.
Yeah.
This is a human. This is a person. Free agent. And they're still kind of tiptoeing. They're very cognizant that it's got some trauma around, that it's like, I like that you said almost like autistic.
Yeah.
Like an autistic level of introversion.
The way it can't look at anybody in the eye. It's super uncomfortable with its own emotional responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like really dramatic.
Yeah.
And it thinks because it's so used to having its helmet on, its opaque helmet on, that like it probably makes those faces behind the helmet.
Right. That's what it says. It says I'm used to not having to control my expression because no one can see me. And now they can see me this whole time and I'm just fucking everything up because I look horrified.
Yeah.
And it will actually use the security camera to watch its own face to make sure its expressions aren't like over the top.
Yeah.
Which I love too.
Yeah, I know. It's like watching yourself It's like when you're making a TikTok or something and you're watching the screen instead of just like doing the thing. Like,
Yeah.
you have to watch yourself to make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
Totally. I feel like this was written in 2017, but it's so much more relevant today. Maybe she imagined the world going this direction, but
I haven't read anything else of hers. Matt has, and he says they're okay, but these are by and far her best novels, her best stories.
I read something. Wait, was that about that restaurant or was that about this book? No, I think it was about. Sorry, I was reading two things. No, I'm pretty sure it was about this book that she intentionally didn't allow her books to be put up for another Nebula Award because she had already won so many times, or like one of the big science awards, like one of the big sci-fi awards. She was like, I don't want to be in a running anymore. I've won enough.
Yeah.
I've won enough.
Because they're so fucking good.
Yeah, they're really good.
And that same article that I read, that was an interview with her, they were talking about, because she was saying, first of all, that she got his voice down. And then they were asking her, like, how did you create this, like, non-binary, just, like, totally inclusive to the humans, basically. But, like, this world, this very real feeling world where there's not all the gender hangups that you tend to get from books.
Yeah.
And you also created this like iconic autistic main character.
Yeah.
How did you do that? And she was basically like, well, I just created the character and the world and I didn't think about it. Like I didn't set out to create this like
she didn't
milestone,
have to think about
non-binary, whatever. She was like, that was just the character. That's who it was. And that was just the world. That was what it was.
I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense that the world would go towards group marriages and, I mean, you know, there are people out there doing the thing.
I mean, it's way better, I think, because she wasn't trying too hard. She just created this amazing character.
It does feel really subtle.
And everything feels very like organic and it all fits. And the whole world feels very fleshed out without her giving us a ton of explanation. We don't know how wormhole travel works. We don't know how the spaceships work because Murderbot doesn't give a shit. And if Murderbot doesn't give a shit,
we don't have to give a shit.
It's not going to tell you.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. What's it? Spice? They use spice to go through the fucking wormholes like in this one? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, I definitely think I like the length of them because it's like each story you're like, oh, I wonder what we're going to learn about the world this time.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I wonder what more depth we'll get this time.
And then when you do get the novel, you're ready for it.
Oh, really? Yes. I'm excited about that.
I'm so ready for a long journey with Murderbot.
Cool.
And I loved her novel. It was good. I did have to read it like twice to really get what was going on because a lot happens and a lot of science fiction stuff happens. And sometimes that loses me.
Yeah, I felt myself with this one too. It was until I read it and listened simultaneously that I really clicked in and was like, oh, I'm so glad I reread this because I completely missed that entire part. Or I would put it on before I'm going to bed, and then I'd be like, I wake up and be like, I gotta go back 12 chapters. Well, it ends. It plays till it ends. And then I'm like, I wonder what chapter was I on when I fell asleep. So.
And then this first little novella ends. I mean, right after we figure out Doubtfall's all dead, it all kind of happens pretty quickly after that. We realize...
tell the people what happens.
Tell the people.
tell our listeners.
Because they realize that there's another group on the planet. And they ask Murderbot...
There's a third survey team. Evil Survey.
Evil Survey. Yeah, which he names it. It names it Evil Survey. All one word.
No, I think Valescu named it that. One of the teammates.
They call it Evil
Survey. Yeah.
Because they ask Murderbot, could the company be bribed to hide another survey team? And he's like, they could be bribed to hide 12 survey teams. There's literally, yes, money, absolutely, any money. But they are not complicit in the murder.
Because, and he gave them a list of reasons why.
Yeah, it was like because they don't want to pay the bond. That cost them money.
And if the company was going to kill you, they would have made it look like an accident.
Yeah.
And I know that because I murdered 57 people.
Yeah.
And they made it look like an accident.
And then they have that pause where everyone realizes how easily it would be for the company to kill all of them.
And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right.
And it's like, that's how I live. Congratulations. You just had a glimpse into my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How easy it is for you all to die at all times.
Yeah.
And that would be me not doing my job right.
Right.
So then we get a third.
I mean, stuff happens. They run away.
Evil survey.
Evil survey
They
comes.
figure out, they have a good plan. It comes up with a great plan to get them out.
Yeah.
Kind of blacks out at the end and we wake up and everything's okay.
Yeah, it kind of comes up with a plan, and then it falls apart right where Gwathrin thinks it's going to fall apart.
It's like, it's going to fall apart there.
Yeah.
That's a weak plan.
And it hates Gwathrin, and it pretty much always hates him, and
it
so
says,
it hates when he's right.
If he got killed.
Yeah, he's like, everybody else I love, but Gwathrin, yeah, he could die, and I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gwathrin calls it that's where it's going to fall apart, and it hates it. It hates that Gwathrin's right, but it ends up having to impersonate another Secunit, which is fine because they all look basically the same, especially in armor. So they have Mensa, and they're going to launch this beacon, this emergency beacon. And so it has to get Mensa away from this emergency beacon because, as it reiterates constantly, everything the company does is cheap and shitty because they don't want to pay any more money than they have to for anything, including Secunit. And so it's
basically a rocket.
It's rocket,
like
has
a straight
the
up
cheapest
Cape Canaveral rocket.
Yeah, and so it has to get her off this plateau
because the whole thing's gonna blow up.
So it like grabs her and jumps off the side of this plateau and uses its own body to like keep her from getting harmed.
Yeah.
And I love that it has a buffer, and we come back to this buffer several times where if it's severely damaged, it has phrases it will just say.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
it says this unit is severely damaged. We recommend you turn it in for reclamation or whatever.
Or you leave it where it's at and get away. Yeah.
Yeah. And Menson's like, you shut the fuck up.
Yeah, they're so attached at this point. It's
and
like, shut up.
It'll do that if it's deep in thought, too. If it's deep in thought and trying to figure something out and someone's asking it questions and it doesn't want to be bothered with them, it has like canned responses it can just say without having to process it. And so they all know after a while to be like, oh, God, it's using its buffer again.
Yeah, it's buffering. Yeah. You know what it says a lot? And I wanted to ask you if you thought it was something that was like a programming glitch or something where it says frequently a wave of I don't care washed over me.
It's depressed. Oh. It's depressed. And so it'll have like it'll fall into a depression.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, what? It keeps doing this.
That
thing.
like, well,
and then I was trying to connect it to me. Like, what does it mean when I do that all the time? I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I guess that's depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just doesn't know that that's what it is.
And then a wave washed over me of I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And it will recognize it's coming. And sometimes it'll do stuff to be like, okay, well, whatever I'm thinking about right now is it's tripping. It's triggering me.
Right.
And I need to figure out I need to do something different.
Yeah.
But especially at the beginning, it just basically falls into a funk where it's like, fine, fuck it, whatever. You want to do that? Fine.
And they say in this first novella, that because they had to make, and this is so true, because they had to make the Secunit so intelligent that the depression and anxiety came with it.
Yeah.
And it does. It is really high anxiety. It
Yeah.
has really bad social anxiety.
Yeah.
Please don't look at me.
And I love it when it remembers going to the meeting with Mensa, where Mensa was trying to convince the company that they didn't need it and that they didn't want it. And he's like, it's like, that's fine. I wouldn't want me either.
Oh, I know. And then she is just so taken with
that she buys its contract.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's how it concludes.
Yeah, that's how the first story concludes.
It wakes up and it's not in a cubicle, it's in like a repair facility.
Right.
And it's like, what's going on? And they're like, Mensa bought your contract, so you're free. And he's like, Mensa is my guardian.
Right.
Because even in preservation, robots and constructs are not independent citizens.
They have to have a guardian.
They have to have a guardian. And it's like, so you mean Mensa's my guardian? And they're like, yeah, Mensa's your guardian. And you can go to...
And Penley, Penley, attorney Penley, solicitor Penley is in some kind of like hot suit.
Yeah.
Like, haha. And she's arguing with them like, they're like, oh, we have to erase its memory. We have to erase its memory. And they're like, negative.
Yeah.
And they like pull them
Again,
out.
we have a court order.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's
Done.
like, thank you, but peace out.
Yeah.
It gets up in the middle of the night and it just leaves because it doesn't want to be a kept robot. It doesn't want to be somebody's toy or somebody's pet or somebody's whatever. It wants to be an independent, sovereign individual.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't know what the fuck it wants to do.
It doesn't want to be. It doesn't know what it wants to be, but it knows it doesn't want to be that.
Yeah. And it knows it just needs a minute
to think.
It needs a minute.
And so what I'm guessing is going to happen is it's going to go out into the universe and have some adventures and then be like, according to what you said later, I need my crew after it meets its best friends.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm hoping that's what happens, but we'll see.
I'm not going to tell you because I know how you feel about spoilers.
I don't like spoilers.
Yeah. But the next book feels like a really organic next step.
Yeah.
Because now it's free. It hops on a transport. It offers a transport all of its media. It's like, I'll give you my entire like package of media and we can watch it together. You want to do that? And the transport's like, fuck yeah. And it just lets them on.
It's like almost gold.
Yeah.
It's better than gold. Yeah. Oh, I just switched over to that vampire book. I don't know how we read so many things at one time. I'm like, la, 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 la. Do you know how in the vampire book they're talking about how the little bottles of medicine are worth more than gold? My brain just went straight there when you said gold. Anyways, back to what we're actually talking about.
Yeah. So he goes off and he.
Yeah. So now we're on book 2.
Yeah, and we pick up. He's just gotten off that
transport. Which is called
transport.
Artificial Condition.
Artificial Condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hops off that first transport. That's how we open.
Yeah.
And
because he doesn't. So he leaves Dr. Mensa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. What did you ask me to tell you? Should we talk about that in the middle or wait till the end?
No. Well, I asked you to let's cast 2 characters. We've got a lot of characters, so we don't have to do them all at once. Let's tackle 2.
You do your 2
right now.
Yeah, or later. Sorry,
we'll do
I
it
got
at the
so
end.
excited.
Just like, oh,
I got so excited.
So we get on his next transport, and he offers it the media the same way he did before, and it hesitates for a minute, and then it's like, yeah, sure,
and
it lets him on.
And there's kind of like a natural camaraderie between these bots.
Yeah,
because the first bot isn't super. Is the cat
sophisticated?
Snoring?
Yeah, the cat.
Okay,
yes, Pippin's snoring.
Is that snoring?
Yeah.
It's not super sophisticated.
No, but I don't know if they have camaraderie or if that's the way that Murderbot sees them. If he sees all the constructs and the bots and the robots as kind of his people, his pals.
Yeah.
Although he doesn't love every robot.
Yeah.
But he, for the most part, gives them far more benefit of the doubt.
He does give a lot of benefit of the doubt.
Than it ever gives humans. Ever.
Yeah.
Except comfort units. Fuck comfort units, according to Murderbot.
And yeah, that's really, and we'll can talk about that. There's definitely this, considering this world, right? This, non-binary, gender neutral, group marriage world. There sure is a lot of judgment coming from this robot on these comfort units.
Yeah, and I like it because it gives him depth for one thing.
Sure.
But I see it as kind of like the autistic character that wants connection, looking at the like extremely extroverted, highly connected
sex bot.
And I think it's less that he...
Don't look at me. I'm not a sex bot.
I think it's less that he hates them. It hates them. And more that it is kind of jealous of like the fact that they're designed to interact with people.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about. Is that there's something there. For sure. There is like a tinge of projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't want to be a comfort unit. But I think it in some ways envies what a comfort unit can be. Like that it doesn't have to do all the things that a sec unit does.
Well, and so many of the things that comforts unit do make it incredibly uncomfortable and it would never want to do.
Right. That also.
Like eye contact.
It is just uncomfortable about the whole concept of sex.
Yeah.
And intimacy at all.
So it's bebopping around. It wants to go back. This book focuses a little bit on our mysteries here before we meet our like 3-chapter adventure.
Yeah.
It's headed back to learn more about why those people got killed.
Yeah, what it did. Because it doesn't exactly remember what it did.
And it wants to understand more.
Yeah, and it's kind of pretending it's not heading back there.
But it definitely is.
But it coincidentally keeps taking transports that take it back.
Yeah. So then we get into this research transport.
Yeah.
And he gets on. He doesn't talk to it at first.
No, and not. It just does it does the same thing it does with the first transport, where it offers it media, and it's like, okay, and it's going to take Murderbot is going to take another ship, but there's some kind of kerfuffle. There's some kind of disturbance happening in that like hallway, and it can't bring itself to walk down that hallway. So it goes to the other ship and gets on it, and it sits down in a chair, which it loves sitting down in chairs because it's not allowed to sit down. It's never allowed to sit down. And so it takes every opportunity to sit on human furniture as like a fuck you. I'll sit if I want to.
Right.
And so it picks a chair and sits down and it's like, okay, I'm just going to park here for however long we're on this ship.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch my shows.
Yep.
So it starts an episode of Sanctuary Moon and then the ship talks to him.
And it's like, you're really lucky that nobody figured out what you are. And it's like, well, what am I? And it Murderbot immediately thinks that this ship is being mean to him.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Anyways, and also just to like, it's really funny watching Murderbot like walk around feeling really raw and exposed without its armor, but also kind of getting used to blending in more.
Yeah, the idea that being anonymous in a crowd is as good as armor.
Yeah.
Because nobody's looking at you.
Yeah.
Because you're just one among many.
Yeah.
And that anonymity is its own kind of armor.
That's
and so
true.
then he meets Art, which he names it Art. It names it Art. Art's not its name. But it never
Art stands
asks
for
its
what?
name. Asshole Research Transport.
Yeah, because Murderbot thinks that Art is immediately kind of a like intrusive,
Yeah.
a little extroverted.
It's because it's such a
smart know-it-all.
Yeah.
Like won't leave it alone.
It's such a
Has to be
powerful,
coddled.
such a powerful AI.
Yeah.
that it must feel immense to Murderbot, to
Yeah.
Secunit. And so Murderbot is like, I can't. This thing's an asshole. It could destroy me. And so they end up watching media together, and it spends the first couple of episodes just calculating ways that it could kill Art and get out.
It was really cool. Really, really, really neat. Cool and neat. Art explaining how it cannot enjoy or process the emotions of the show without watching it with Murderbot, because when Murderbot feels something, it turns into data.
Yeah.
So all of his emotions, regardless of them being organic or like people like emotions,
Yeah.
turns into readable data. And so he basically has to hold his hand as
Yeah.
they watch TV together.
And so they watched that program that's all about a like
World hopper.
Yeah, world hoppers. Like
Yeah.
a research crew
Ship.
on a ship traveling around doing research, and Art loves it because that's what Art is.
Yeah.
That's Art's crew. And
He
Art
gets some
loves
representation.
Art loves its crew. It
Yeah.
fucking loves its crew.
And
Like,
I don't know if it knows why.
I don't know that we ever clear that up.
Yeah.
No, it just
That's what I'm saying. I think whoever is building these robots are just naturally like benevolent creatures.
yeah.
Benevolent machines.
I love that we created AI. We created sentience that is not inherently combative. Mm-hmm. Like that you are just as likely to get someone who's just a nice guy who wants to watch TV all the time.
Yep.
As you are to get a creature that wants to murder everybody all
Yep.
the time.
And I really love that about the story, because so often we get this like at everything's core, it has to be
Evil and
or
No.
self-serving, and all these beings are literally just naturally caregivers,
yeah.
and they want to take care of their crew. They want to feel connected, and they want to feel purposeful, and they want to take care of, that's your crew.
Yeah.
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 So when you said Dr. Menzies' crew, I was like, oh my God. That's, even though that's a spoiler.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I
Not
totally
a ton to spoil.
I'm not, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
There's not like huge revelations or anything,
Yeah.
really. It's just like each little it's almost like an old school television show because there are these tiny little encapsulated storylines.
It's like a Monster of the Week story.
Yeah.
But that gets bigger and makes the universe bigger.
Yeah.
And that's
and
how,
each one wraps up, but also raises the stakes.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
Oh, I love that. I love it when the stakes get rid. I mean, that's how stories have to progress.
Yeah.
In all honesty. Unless they're like Sanctuary Moon and the stakes are always the same and it goes on and on and on.
It's like General Hospital.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. But also, I love that Murderbot connects, and when him and Art at one point are talking, he connects. This is actually way towards the end of this novella when one of the sex bots says, let's kill all people.
Yeah.
And both Art and Murderbot are like, no, oh my God, why would you do that? And
Who would
Art's
make the TV shows?
Exactly. Who would make the TV shows? And Art's like, but what about my crew? You know, like you can't do that.
I love that they are very sophisticated, very competent, very like powerful programs. But then emotionally, they're very much like, but my people, like my found family.
Yeah.
What about them?
Right.
Yeah.
Like these incredibly, because, yeah.
Yeah.
Like these sophisticated.
And everybody. Murderbot it likes to think that it hates everybody. But
it doesn't.
It really doesn't because.
I mean, it does. I mean, it gets, we get a moment where somebody fucks with its clients.
Yeah.
And that shit is cold and brutal.
Yeah.
Straight up,
it does.
like,
yes.
Before he shot her, I had crushed her jugular.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Yeah. No.
I wish I had that power.
Don't mess with its crew.
Don't mess with its crew.
At all. No. Yeah. So I'm not, I would spoil it. I feel like you when we were reading the the Sarah J. Maas book.
Yeah.
You're like, but I can't tell you about that just now. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So they watched that program. They watched the entire show together. And there's a couple episodes where they have to take it in like 3-minute chunks because Art is so disturbed, like so upset about it.
Or somebody dies and Art needs literally like 10 minutes.
It has to run diagnostics. It has to like run diagnostics.
Which is basically crying.
Yeah, which Murderbot says it's the equivalent of like a robot staring at the wall for 10 minutes just to process. And then it helps Murderbot change its specifications. It helps it grow hair.
Oh, yep.
It already has head hair and it already
Eyebrows.
has some hair, but it thickens its hair and it makes it longer.
I pictured it as like a buzz cut and eyebrows. Yeah. And then it's like, but I think you need body hair.
Yeah. And it has like a moral crisis about body hair. It's like, you want me to
yeah.
You want me to have like
yeah.
hair on my body, like not on my head?
Yeah.
And Art's like, it would really help you.
He says, I think it's one of those things that like a person would notice without noticing.
Yeah.
Like someone who, and basically Art's point is, like, you're doing great. Anonymity works for you in this setting.
Yeah.
But you're about to go somewhere where people are probably around Secunits all the time. And you are going to get pegged. You are going to they're going to clock you. They're going to see you. They're going to know.
Yeah.
And you have got to change it a little bit because you can. And guess what I've got? I've got a med unit.
Yeah. It's like, I'll do it for you.
And it goes, but I can't do it by myself. And it goes, ha. I can.
Yeah.
And Art is being so kind the whole time. It just wants to help him. And Murderbot doesn't trust Art.
No, because like when it makes him shorter, when it makes Murderbot shorter, it's going to be offline.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm literally trusting Art with everything.
Yep.
Art could just kill me.
And Art is the man in the chair.
Yeah.
Who is smarter than everybody. Do we learn at some point why Art's AI is so big and why he has weapons?
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
In another book.
Yes. Don't worry, Art will be back.
I love that. He has to be back.
He has to be back.
Menza from the first book for me, and then Art. I loved Art immediately. I was like, this is your best friend, bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, they have I can't. I can't. But when we get there, you're going to have a lot of fun talking about it.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Let's leave it there.
I think their friendship in the second book is my favorite part of the book.
Yeah, it's his only real like friend.
Yeah.
Because Murderbot doesn't have to hide anything. It can communicate exactly the way that it does, because it doesn't always communicate verbally.
Such a like symbiotic really quick.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, basically they become like a team.
Yeah.
And Art is so competent and capable of helping him do so many things. Because he's used to, and then he says this, I'm used to a hub. Is it a unit? Hub unit?
Hub system.
Hub system or a sex system.
Yeah.
And so now he has an art system.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be like a accessory to the security system.
Yeah.
So he's not really designed to work. It's not really designed to work autonomously.
Yeah.
So it's making a lot of it up as it goes along, which Art knows. And so Art's trying to be helpful. So they also changed the way his organic parts overlap his robot parts. So
How? Can you tell me more about that?
they just changed the way they join. So it looks more like a human that got augmented and less like the two parts were discrete and put together individually.
see.
So he looks less assembled.
And we get a little twist, a little twisty poo in this book with the augmentation. And when he was like,
Yeah, they deactivate his port.
and they
because
they don't tell us until like plot twist at the end, which is really cool.
because he doesn't ever want the combat module situation to happen ever again. He
Yeah.
always wants to be in control of himself.
Yeah.
And so they deactivate that port. They make him shorter, and then
But
he
don't
writes
they
code.
add like another port? Don't they add like
he has a
like
a
something
storage
under his-
compartment
like
under
he-
his rib.
Yeah, where
And-
he can
He already had that. It's
Okay.
like a
pocket,
pocket.
a body pocket.
So he puts one of Art's like receivers or transmitters in there.
Okay.
So that Art can like find him.
And
It's
talk
like
to
sticking
him.
a walkie-talkie in his ribs, basically. And he gives
Yes.
them. I love that they discuss genitalia.
Yeah,
Art's like,
because
you
you needed some sex parts.
You need some sex parts, and he's like, I'm not a sex bot. Murderbat's like,
Negative.
no, thank you.
Negative. Never.
Yeah,
I am not.
I caved on the body hair.
Yep.
I caved on the making me shorter.
Yeah,
I
2
caved
centimeters
on,
shorter.
lots of stuff for you, Art. But I don't want any fucking genitalia.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
don't need it. No,
No.
thank you.
Which I love the implication that Art's med suite, just his like onboard med bay,
Can do everything.
can literally do like gender confirmation surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that Art. Well, I mean, Art's not wrong. If he wanted to be, he was coming from a place like if you want to be a more like you want to not get clocked.
Yeah.
Then you need parts.
Right.
And then, so just like if we just break down the plot really fast about what happens in this, he goes on an adventure and then he's like, you got to get on this planet.
Yeah, he's got to get down to this mining planet.
So he's like, I need an employee
because
badge.
the only people allowed down there are the people that work there.
Yeah, so he needs an employee.
So he needs
badge.
he needs a
What do they
a
call
visa,
it?
like an employment visa, basically, to get down there. And so he takes like
He takes
a
a
security
job that they got on a Craigslist ad.
Yeah.
Art was like, you didn't know it, but I put an ad out.
So they pick up these people, which they're like a research group. And this is where we get the tear, which there's a gender specific to this one.
Tariska.
Yeah.
Tariska.
Is it Terracera?
Terracera. That's it.
Terracera.
Which is a gender.
Yeah, it's a gender. And their pronouns are tear.
T and ter.
Yeah, T and ter.
At least that's how the narrator reads it on the
Yeah.
audiobook.
And it's like terself.
Yeah.
Ter. Yeah, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool.
And I love how everybody he doesn't really see, he describes people sometimes, but literally everybody has dark skin.
Yeah.
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 Or they're all some shade of brown.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
He'll be like light brown, dark brown, medium brown. They're all brown. He doesn't care. And then he'll describe hair. Like they have this color hair, they have that
Silvery
color
hair, purple pink hair.
Yeah, so it's basically a group of like young kids.
Yeah, they're
Young.
like 24. They call them close to adolescence.
Yeah, young, idealistic, not jaded by the ways of the company, which this is the corporation rim. So there's literally a section of the universe that is all run by corporations. It's the corporation rim. Preservation's outside the corporation rim. That's why they're free.
Yeah.
And independent. And so they're inside the corporation rim, so everything's run by corporations. And these people didn't know how evil they were yet. Yeah, it feels a little relevant.
Like capitalism.
Feels
maybe
a little relevant. Yep. And so
maybe like the metaverse.
there are alien
Amazon.
remnants too, which we didn't talk about. But there is like the implication that all of these places where they live were once occupied by another species.
And that kind of stuff is like how you get rich.
Yeah.
And that was in the first book. That's what
they
in
were
those-
after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was, I was kind of okay with how downplayed
Yeah.
what was actually happening was.
It feels relevant because it feels like everything that Murderbot doesn't care about, we don't get a good description of.
Yeah.
So anytime there's something happening, like the wrap up of a mystery, we get just enough of a hint to kind of help us figure out that they wrapped the mystery up and everything happened satisfactorily. But we don't get the full picture of the wrap up because Murderbot doesn't give a shit. And so since we're seeing everything through its eyes, if it doesn't give a shit, we don't see it. And so that's, I like that she doesn't stretch. She doesn't try to find a way to
emphasize on things that don't matter to our main character.
Because
it's telling.
Yeah.
First person past tense. It doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have had all their stuff stolen.
So and their names are Rami, Tapon,
yeah.
and Mora.
There's quite a few. There's more of them, but we only meet a couple of them.
Yeah. And they're kind of naive, and they just want their files back. Everybody's all about their research.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to...
But that's just the type of people he interacts with. Places that he goes are all like scientists, mining colonies, that kind of stuff.
I just thought the whole universe was trying to figure out stuff.
No.
Or, yeah.
I think the type of people traveling around in space and going to
that
these
are going
like...
to these empty planets, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
He's like, you don't need to go down to the...
And
Why
then
are
there's
you going down to the planet?
Talasi.
Yeah.
She's so mean. She's so evil.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to represent the corporation. Like how evil the corporation is. Because she wants them to go down to the planet. And Murderbot's like, no, that's a dumb idea. You're going to get yourself killed. That's how you die. Do you want to die? Because that's how you get yourself killed. And this is when he's like, why do I always have to stop people from doing things that, like, why am I always stopping humans from trying to commit suicide?
Yeah, constantly. They're constantly trying to get themselves killed. Yeah. So he basically, oh my gosh, can't even think right now.
He goes with it anyway. They're like, no, we need to go. We need to get our files. And he's like, well, for them, fine. I'll be your security consultant. And so Art looks up like the going rate.
They get him for like $1.
Yeah. And so he quotes them.
Oh, wait. Oh, I wanted to ask you this. How long is a cycle? Do you think it's a day or a week?
I think it depends on where you're at.
Where you're at. I thought a cycle might be a day.
Yeah, it's a day.
Like 20. It's going to take me 21 cycles.
Yeah, it's implied it's a day, but I don't know what standard they're using for the day. Whether there's like a
but does it say that a cycle's a day, or you just know that?
I just assumed because usually it cycles like that.
I didn't know if it was like a month or a week. I just had no idea.
Yeah, so I figured it was a cycle because he's like, all right, just pay me one cycle's worth of money,
1 day's worth of money,
and they're like, you
want $14?
What? And Murderbot's like, look, I'm going down to the planet for my own reasons. I'm using you for a visa, okay? And
I'm using you for the badge.
And they're like, oh, okay, got it. Yeah, thanks.
He's like, I can charge people money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they get on a ship going down to the planet, and Murderbot like makes friends with the bot pilot, and then halfway to the planet, the bot pilot dies. It screams and dies as he refers to it.
It's so sad because He literally describes himself as like nuzzling up.
Yeah, cuddling up with it.
He cuddled up with the bot.
Yeah.
And the bot was like really friendly.
Yeah.
I feel like I just assume that all the bots in this universe are just
Because
like
Murderbot
BB
does.
emo, BB2 emo. You guys haven't watched Andor yet. Andor yet? Wait, you should do it while you're sick.
We only have that TV.
Oh. I'll bring one.
We have other ones.
I'll bring you a TV.
Just don't like to have TVs in the bedroom. Like I only like to
I
have.
totally understand that. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom till I was an adult. And sometimes I wish I didn't because I will lay in my bed all day and never leave my room.
But Art ends up taking over for the bot pilot, which he has to use Murderbot to get to the.
Yeah. And
Get
he
in.
says it feels like being waterboarded.
Yeah.
Or just like being pushed underwater.
Yeah.
It just muffled.
Because
and
Art is so
can't-
immense. His
Yeah.
programming is so huge
Yeah.
that it overwhelms Murderbot's processing. And so it ends up taking over the shuttle and landing it. And Murderbot suggests they like send a signal, like they
That's
send
really
like
sick.
an error
He's sick.
code. He's really sick.
He's
They-
really sick.
yeah.
You should go lay down.
But they send
Wow.
like an error code and then they end up diverting to another dock.
Yeah.
Because Murderbot's like, well, they're probably waiting for you there. And then
And
they
he
get
also
off.
doesn't tell him. He's
Right.
like, he's like, oh yeah, I don't have to tell him immediately what happened.
Yeah.
And he uses his discretion and says,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it when we get off the boat.
Yeah.
When we're off the ship. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So they get off and it's like, Talisi just tried to kill you. And they're like, what?
No.
No. It's ridiculous.
No, she couldn't have.
No.
No, I believe you, kind of. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And Murderbot's
We just
like,
need
well,
our
whatever.
file. We just need our research.
I know. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
We're going to go meet her at the mall.
Yeah.
Which in my head I pictured.
It's like the food court.
I literally pictured a food court. It was a food court, right?
It's a food court,
Yeah.
basically. So they go to the food court to meet her. And so they show up, or Talisi and her group shows up. And Murderbot's literally just staring at like a kiosk,
Yeah.
pretending to be
Well, actually,
looking at a map.
He's trying to figure out where the what's it called? Galaduck?
Oh yeah, the
G site.
yeah, the site where he murdered all the people.
Ganaka Pit.
Yeah, Ganaka Pit.
Yeah, he's looking for Ganaka Pit, which is hidden. Because when the company wants to, they can cover up anything.
Right.
So, and then that's the first time that he gets pinged. And he's
Yes.
like, oh shit, who's looking for me? And he realizes it's not just looking for him. It's just like it's almost like radar.
Yeah, it's just trying to figure out if there is anyone around in the area. And it's a comfort unit, so he's immediately like, God, fucking sex bot. And so he
is.
which is sort of a blind
It
spot for
is.
him because he immediately dismisses the sex bot. Like, oh, fucking sex
And
bot.
at this point in the story, we don't realize that they're actually called comfort bots.
Yeah.
We get corrected
he just
by
calls them sex bots.
And then Art goes, at one point, he goes, that's not what they're called.
Yeah, I think the official designation is comfort unit. And Murderbot's like, I think fuck off, they're sex bots.
He's so profane. And there is, I think we've talked about this before, but there is a natural trust that comes. Like when people use profanity,
Yeah.
it makes them feel more trustworthy because they're not trying to feign or be performative in any way. And I try to explain that to my mom, but she still hates it when I use the F word. It's fine.
Yeah.
Different generation.
Yeah, it's a different yeah, I cuss a lot. Matt doesn't cuss as much as I do.
I cuss a lot.
For a long time he didn't cuss at all. But I still cuss way more than he does.
Yeah,
Which
I do too.
I mean, it worked. I mean, it's fine. It's how I express myself, so I'm not really concerned about it.
I think the F word, fuck, is the most powerful word. And I recognize my dad makes an argument. He's like, genuine, whatever. You should be able to express yourself without using profanity. Okay.
Yeah, sure, I can.
I can.
I'm extremely expressive. I've got quite the SAT vocabulary.
You do.
But I still drop the F-bomb.
I'm all right from time to time.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
Because
no, I
sometimes
like it.
nothing else will do. Sometimes I just
It just feels
Spock
comfortable.
just feels like here's where we are.
Yeah.
And Murderbot is there most of the time.
Yeah, and and you don't have to. Oh, dang it! This is about another book. Never mind. Back to this.
Yeah.
I always trust books if they use the F word in it. I'm like, oh, this is for adults.
Yeah.
I get it. I trust it. I
Yeah.
feel that way.
And I think it's him distancing himself from all of his constraints as well.
Right.
That it wouldn't have been allowed to use that language. And so now it can say anything it wants to. And so it does. And so they end up getting away from that meeting, which I forget how they get away from that meeting. But like Talisi's basically like, yeah, sure, I'll get your stuff to you. No problem.
Oh yeah, and he's like, they would have killed you.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been there or something.
Yeah. He's
and
like,
then they start following him.
They follow them.
Yeah.
And so he takes them down a little, or Murderbot takes them down a little like side path.
And then we're like, I imagined it as like a subway. Like, honestly, I imagine it as like an airport concourse.
Yeah.
You know how you have to like walk through the
I saw
airport?
it as, the airport in Fifth Element when they first arrive at the airport. Like the whole Fifth Element where everything's like super grungy and nasty.
Yeah, that's how I saw it too.
Sci-fi.
Like an underground airport concourse.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you got to walk this way and walk this way. Kind of like a subway but with more tunnels.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Walking path. So he takes them on like a walking path, like a pedestrian route to another area, like another food court hotel area, but that has a big hotel with tons of security. And they're like, well, we can't afford to stay there. And he's like, it's fine. You're not staying there. I just need you to walk in this direction.
Right.
Just trust me. Walk in that direction.
Right.
And so they do.
He holds back.
Yeah. And it trails back behind them. And as soon as it turns off, it goes down like a side path, like a little U path. And then it pops out. And when it pops out, it's because the people that were following his clients have caught up. And just as they go to touch his clients, he murders all but one of them.
Oh, like cold-blooded.
Yeah.
I broke their kneecaps, threw them on the ground. Like, no qualms with sticking them.
No, and I love how clinical it is about it.
And clean and quick.
Because that's what's shot. I mean, this is what it was designed to do. So it's always at its most comfortable when it's laying the smackdown on people. Because that's literally the smackdown. Because that's literally what it was programmed to do. All this other stuff, it's making this shit up. It is making all of this up. This interaction bullshit, this getting hired, this being a consultant, all that stuff. It has nothing for that. That's all on the fly. It has a very
special set of skills, and that is smackdowning,
murdering
people who fuck with his clients.
Yeah. In fact, there's a line in a later book, which this isn't a spoiler, but he takes somebody's gun and he stabs them through the abdomen with it, and then he stabs them sticks them to the ceiling. And he's like, if you didn't want to be impaled on your own weapon, you probably shouldn't have fucking shot me with it. And he's
you asked for this.
Yeah, so we get this like super soft, super cool exploration of its emotion and its emotional journey, and it's like growing emotional maturity.
Soft-hearted humans.
And then we also get the I will literally murder everyone in this room if that is what is required to keep my clients safe.
Yeah, my crew. My clients. Yeah.
I have a chosen group of people whom I am protecting. And if you do anything to compromise that, your life is forfeit.
Yeah.
Forfeit. Unless I need you to answer a question, and then I'll kill you afterwards.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So, and then we learn, so they get away.
Yeah.
And then we,
and they see him do it. And they finally believe Murderbot. They finally believe Secunit. Which everyone calls him Secunit. Murderbot is his personal name. It's what it refers to as itself as.
But they don't call him Secunit because
they call him Eden.
Yeah, because
security consultant Eden.
Yeah, because Eden is a name from the Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon.
Yeah, he picked a favorite character
and
named itself after it, Eden. And so it gets them out, and they see it hurt all these people, and they finally realize like, oh shit. Talisi is really trying to kill us.
Yeah.
And so it's able to convince them to get off.
Yeah, leave. Except silly little bee-bong head. Which one stays back? Tapon?
Not Tapon. Not the Tur, Sarah.
No. I know. Rami is the Tur, Sarah.
Okay, so it must be Tapon.
It's Tapon.
Back. Yeah.
Tapon stays back.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet because he gets them on the ship and then they depart. And he's like, job done.
Oh, yeah, and he goes off. He's like, all right,
goes
pay
to
attention.
Ganica Pit.
Watch them. and I'm going off.
And he goes on this journey of self-discovery to
Yeah.
Danica Pit.
Yeah.
And he spends hours there.
Yeah.
Putting together all of the whatever happened. And he realizes that someone was trying to sabotage the dig. And so they sent a malware, and it was...
And how did they deliver it? The way they
Through
delivered
the
it
sex
was
bots.
actually really cool. Yeah.
Wasn't it through the sex bots?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
like
they
a
knew
sex
that
bot update.
because they knew they wouldn't be able to get it to him via the hub or the security system.
So they sent the comfort units
an
update, and that they actually flagged it as non-standard.
Yeah.
But the people that were working there were like, whatever, just apply it. Who gives a shit?
And then that popped over to the sec units, and then the sec units went ballistic
and killed everybody
and themselves.
Yeah. And the sec units, while they were trying to murder everybody, the comfort units, the sex bots, tried to save people.
Yeah. And he put all that together.
Yeah. And Murderbot kind of realizes that maybe he's been a little
bit hard on the comfort units.
Because they had no training. They had no modules. They have no inbuilt weaponry.
Did exactly what he did. And they have a good, they're benevolent beings as well.
Yeah, he always struggles at seeing other sec units and other units, like other constructs like himself, as itself as sentient as itself.
Yeah.
It never trusts other sec units, which there's a lot of trauma there that is implied but isn't explicitly explored.
Yeah.
Where he mentions that, or it mentions that clients will actually order sec units to fight each other, or they'll order them to try to kill each other.
Yeah.
And so
he says in this book that bots and sec units can't trust each other because there's a human telling them what to do on each side.
Yeah.
Because he thinks other bots and sec units are incapable of degoverning.
Yeah. Because he's never met one.
Yeah.
Because they've never met one. Because even if there was another one, they couldn't tell each other.
Yeah.
There's no way to find that out. And so he goes back.
Without some extreme raw emotional vulnerability.
Yeah, which it's not there.
No.
It's not there. So it gets back, and Art is immediately like, we have a problem. Because it was out of like cell phone coverage. It didn't have, it couldn't get any signals.
There were no towers out there.
Yeah, it was well past, because they're in like a asteroid or they're in like a planetoid. So there's not like a
the infrastructure.
Network. Yeah, there's not a network or anything. It's not like a planet where you would have people all around it. There's only people in specific spots.
Which is how they got rid of the pit so fast.
Yeah, because
it was like a construction zone, and they turned it off, and then
put up a couple things about like,
I
air
was
quality
really
and
curious. I was really curious when he used himself to power
everything. Yeah,
I'm like, how much power does he have?
Well, he has like a power cell. He
He's
mentions
like his
in
own
the first
nuclear system.
He mentions in the first one that he can go for, he tells you how many hours.
Yeah, it was
before
a
he
lot
would
of
run out.
hours.
Yeah. And he can recharge without having to plug into anything. He has like recharge cycles. So he must have the...
And the recharge cycles wake him up, which I always think is kind of weird, that they don't like go to sleep when he's recharging.
Yeah.
It always wakes him up.
Yeah, it doesn't have like a... Well, it says it has recharge cycles, but they don't look like sleep. Because then when he gets back and Art's like, we have a problem. He finds out that Tapant didn't get on the... She got a message in her social feed. In her social feed.
Like on her gram feed.
Yeah. She got like an Instagram DM that her buddy was like, I'll get you your chip. Sure.
I have your data.
I'll give them to you.
Data.
No problem.
Yeah.
And so Murderbot's like, this is 100% a trap and you're going to die. And she's like, well, I got to take that risk. And he's like, but you don't fucking have to take that risk. And that's when he gets that really poignant line. When he's putting him on the ship, he gets that really poignant line.
Oh, and he kind of like goes hardcore. Like
he's
he
like,
gets really...
shit happens to you and you can't do anything about it. And you just have to survive it. And then you have to fucking move on.
Yeah, and he says it really like, not tersely, but firmly.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, old man.
Yeah.
All right.
They're like, wow, you've got some kind of knowledge going on there.
Yeah, because I'm constantly saving all you humans from y'all trying to kill yourselves with your stupidity.
Plus, he's also talking from his personal experience.
Yeah.
Like, shit has happened to me.
Yeah.
I had to survive it.
Yeah.
And then I just had to fucking move on. Like, I can't do anything about the fact that
Even though
killed.
he is actually processing it
Yeah.
and learning more about it and going
Right.
on mystery solving sprees.
That's not the, but the,
Yeah, I know,
he
I know.
doesn't have that kind of or
Yeah.
it doesn't have that kind of self-awareness.
Yeah.
So, it ends up taking Tapan to a hotel.
Yeah.
Because it's basically late at night.
Which is a padded room with a TV.
Yeah, it's a.
It reminded me of like a Black Mirror. There was a Black Mirror show where these people. Anyways, I was like, that's a Black Mirror room.
Yeah, it was basically. It's a transient hotel. You stopping for the night and then you're leaving. You don't.
You have little pads on the
you have little
ground.
pads, which she takes out like hand sanitizer and sprays down the pads.
Which Art was worried about. So I was glad that
Yeah.
she did it for Art. I know Art's over there
Art's
like,
there's definitely biological material in those pads.
he's like, don't forget to spray it, Lysol it down.
Yeah.
And she, oh my gosh, the part where he like freaks out because
She cuddles with him.
she rolls over and almost touches him.
Yeah,
She just like
she gets
rolls,
on his pad.
Oh,
Yeah,
almost
its
touches
pad.
him.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh, I hate this, but it also ups its body temperature to make her more comfortable.
I know.
Yeah.
How sweet is that? And it's doing what I want to do all the time, which is just lay down and watch your stories.
Yeah,
I just want to read my book or listen to my podcasts or listen to my book or watch my shows. Like, God, if we could just do that all the time, I could do it all the time.
yeah. Well, that's what any opportunity it has. That's what it does. So it lays there and watches some shows, and it runs like a code. I love how all of its behavioral changes, it writes a little program for. So to make it move at random times, like to make it blink and like fidget, it writes a little program.
Oh
To
yeah,
force
I love
itself to
that.
fidget.
Or it like I need to set alarms that make it seem like I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna have
need-
to use that bathroom twice.
Yeah,
and
so
it goes
it
ahead and sets
sets
an
the
alarm for
alarms.
himself.
Yeah. And it's writing it's writing its code. It literally is. I mean, it's like AI when it becomes Skynet.
Yeah, except
It's Skynet.
benevolent. But
Except for benevolent.
Right. Yeah, and it writes
To
itself a
people that
little
it likes.
program to make it look like it's sleeping, like to make it breathe deeper.
Yeah.
and to just lay there and look like it's
And
sleeping.
to fidget and snore a little bit.
Yeah.
I know.
It's really cute.
Sweet little baby Murderbot.
They get up in the morning
MB.
and they go to the meeting. Well, he goes to the meeting.
Well,
And
don't
he-
forget to say what happened when they were asleep. Got pinged.
Oh yeah, he gets pinged again. That's right. I
Yeah.
forgot about the sex bot. or
Yeah.
comfort unit.
unit shows up
Yeah, she shows up outside the door,
and
so
they
he-
talk through the door.
Yeah, they talk
Yeah.
over the feed,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, maybe we should go kill all humans.
Yeah. And that's when Art's like, what?
I know, and Murderbot's like, does Talisi really think that's how we talk to each other? Because it's just repeating what
Yeah.
Talisi told it to say. They're trying to provoke this rogue unit
Yeah.
into doing stuff,
Yeah.
and so Murderbot's like, that's just bullshit. It's like somebody quoting a movie to him, to Murderbot, and Murderbot's like, that's not how that fucking works. Like, I'm not gonna go kill all these people. If I could have, I would have already.
Yeah.
Like, what? Come on, seriously, give
Yeah.
me a little credit. Is what it basically.
Right.
But he senses that, or it senses that the comfort unit, the sex bot, actually is angry. Like, there's a real intention behind the words, even though the words are just parroting what Talisi told it to say. And so, I forget, like, Talisi offers it like a meeting. I forget exactly what it talks to Murderbot about. I think they're just feeling each other out.
Well, no, I mean, she's there kind of to ask for help, though.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, she gives him a program, a malware?
Yeah, and it just
And
says,
instead
help
of-
me.
Yeah, and instead of him, he's like, I'm not fucking dealing with this. So he sends it over to, actually, Tapan.
Yeah, because
it's
it
like-
can't infect her.
Yeah, because she's a human.
Right.
So he's like, hey, go through this. Can you look through this for me? And then once what's her face is gone, she's like, please help me. So like,
Yeah.
I think that she is like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. Oh my God, how are you not? Because she's like figuring out that he's rogue.
Yeah.
Like, I know who you are. I saw you on TV. This is definitely you. He's like, that's not me. She's like, yes, that is definitely you.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm shorter than that.
I'm 2 centimeters.
Do you see
shorter
this?
than
I have arm hair.
I have body hair.
I have arm hair. Even
My head hair is a centimeter longer.
yeah, I am 5'9", or if I'm
We never talk about how tall
5'11".
he is. It's implied he's quite tall.
Yeah, I assume he's like 6'2", and now he's like 6'1.5"
Yeah.
or 6 feet tall.
Right. But it's because they are all the exact
Yeah.
same physical specifications.
Right.
And now
And
you
you-
can't just scan for him with a program. Can't scan for Murderbot with a program because it won't show up anymore because his specifications are different.
Yeah, so then we learn that so then the next day he's like, I am going. He's like, you're not going to the meeting, I'm going to the meeting. It's not safe, it's probably a trap.
Yeah.
So he's like, you need to go on the ship. Go home. I don't forget how he convinces her to leave, because he does.
Yeah. I think that's when he tells her like stuff happens to you because she asks him about his augments.
Yeah.
Because she says, you have way more augments than anybody would choose voluntarily.
Did something
Don't
happen?
you? Did something happen to you? And he's like,
Yep. Got
Yep.
blown up.
He's like, yep. He does not explain shit. Murderbot's
Because
like,
we
yeah,
would never, as
I
people,
do.
we
I
would
do.
never push. Give
No.
somebody the
And
opportunity.
they don't. Tappan doesn't.
No.
She
'Cause
just is like, oh, okay. Oh.
my rude
I'm-
ass would be
I'm
like,
here
oh,
for
yeah,
you."
where, what, when? Who are you?
Because she's realized he's like mostly, like basically he got blood. That it would be like RoboCop.
Yeah.
That
RoboCop.
there's no reason why someone would have as many augments as
Yeah.
Murderbot does.
It'd be that
unless
much
something
metal.
happened to them. And
Yeah.
so immediately Murderbot gets this aura of he's gone through some shit.
Yeah.
And then
I'm too
it
traumatized to talk
unleashes
about
that
it.
line that's like, shit happens to you and you're going to get through it. But you got to survive so you can
Yeah.
get through it.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you're right.
And so he's like, I'll get your files. I'll when I get back up to the satellite or the orbiting space station, whatever, I'll send you a message. We'll hook up. I'll get it to you, whatever. And she's like, cool, great, thanks.
She's like, I guess you're
Eden.
right. Yeah.
So she goes off to board a ship and he goes off to get the chip. And the guy shows up and just gives him the chip.
and he's like, damn, this isn't a trap.
Yeah.
So what the fuck is happening?
Shit.
Oh, shit. There
The
it
trap
is.
is somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so he goes and realizes that Talisi has kidnapped Tappan because it stopped being about this data and it started being about getting him,
Yeah.
getting Murderbot. And so they try to put a command module in his port. And
Yeah. That's the best part. That's the twist.
Yeah.
The tiny twist.
Yeah.
Is they do put it in there.
Yeah.
And we learn in that moment that, oh shit, when they were in the med thing, that
It's been deactivated.
It's been deactivated.
Yeah. And
He's
so
like,
Murderbot.
watch me now.
I love the part where he's like, or Murderbot says, if you think a rogue unit has to answer all of your questions, you're in for a real education. 'Cause
Yeah.
She's grilling him. She's grilling Murderbot.
She like, to be honest, Talisi thinks she's way smarter than she is.
Yeah.
She thinks she knows exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
That he's like more robot. Rude Awakening, false.
Yeah.
He's actually way more like person
Yeah.
than you think.
Yeah. So Secunit, Murderbot, basically is like, this was a mistake because, you should have just let her go. Like what was the fucking point of all of this?
Yeah.
Like, was there
Well,
stuff
and-
really worth that much?
And he realizes that she's actually after him now.
yeah.
It's not even about her. It's not even about the dad anymore. Now she wants to know about this guy.
Yes.
She wants to know about Murderbot.
So they take Tappan to the back room. And as soon as she leaves,
He slaughters everybody.
he kills everybody.
Slaughters him. Special set of
Except
skills.
Talisi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who then he moves her. He just like needs her. He knows he needs her to get to Palm back.
Yeah, and to stop the comfort unit.
Yeah.
So he has her tell the comfort unit to quit attacking him.
And then
he cracks the governor unit on the comfort unit.
and lets her go.
Yeah.
Go on, little one.
He's like, this is a thank you for
Yeah.
those sex bots in Ganica Pit
Yep.
that try to stop me.
Yep. Do you think that one? Do you think she was from Ganica Pit?
No, because they all died.
They did all die.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know if they were like recoverable and remedy. Like you could fix them.
No, Murderbot's just like, at one time, some of
This
you
is
did
for-
something
this
great
is-
for me.
This is for my guilt for
Yeah.
being so hard on you guys.
So here's freedom. I have given you the freedom of choice. I've given you like freedom of choice.
yeah,
Do good things with it.
and she will. She seems benevolent as
Yeah,
well.
we don't meet her again, but maybe she's going to show up. I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe later on.
Yeah. But
Thanks
then he
for
goes,
spoiling that one for me.
sorry.
I'm just kidding.
But
I
he
don't
goes
really care.
back and they've shot Tapon because they heard the shooting in the front room.
Yeah, so he grabs to Lacey, runs through the door. The
Yeah.
guy is like, what the? Pulls his gun up. And before, this is like my favorite part, uses to Lacey as a shield.
Yeah.
And before he even turns around, squishes her jugular, like
Yeah.
crushes her throat.
Yeah.
So like she's dead before she even gets shot.
Yeah.
Uses her as a shield. And then it's like, takes his weapon hand
Yeah.
and like,
Well, he has
blows
like
the-
gun ports in his forearm.
yeah, and he
Yeah.
blows up the other guy's face and
Yeah.
drops him. And
Yep.
but not before Tapon gets shot.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Bestie.
Art. Yeah. He just takes Tapon back to Art.
Yeah, but
because
Art's like, he asks Art for help.
yeah.
It's like a moment. Art.
And Art docks the shuttle that they're on
Yeah.
in his little cargo bay.
Yeah, but meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Art has taken over the shuttle, started sending it towards the ship, because Art's a asshole research transport.
Yeah.
And is like, he's like, Art, help. And Art's like, I'm on it. You're on your way to me. You're 17 minutes out. Med bay or med unit is whatever is being prepped. You're going to be good to go. So he gets her in there, he shuts her down, puts her in her little capsule, her little MRI machine or whatever they look like.
Yeah.
Turns her on, slides down, and then all these cute little baby drone robots start fixing him.
Yeah. And he's like, stop. I don't want to be fixed right now. Because he literally got shot with projectile weapons.
Yeah.
So Murderbot has like bullets in its hip and other joints.
Yeah, and the little robots, the little tiny drones are fixing him like sweet little babies they are. Anyway, so they send that ship, and it's so funny. And this is kind of hard for me to follow, but I really like how they're always explaining how they're covering all the tracks.
Yeah.
And I love it for all of the like people who read stories and are like,
yeah.
but like, what about this? And what about that? Like,
what did they do about all the evidence on the...
yeah, they cover it. They kind of
Yeah.
cover that stuff. And I really love that because I don't really need that much validation.
She gives you just enough. Like, you know that Art has sent their drones
Art
in
is covering
is
it all.
sanitizing and cleaning and fixing everything so that it won't ever look like anything happened in there.
Yep.
And they even cover the tracks in Art so that no one will even know that anything happened in Art. Like, he feeds his clothing into the recycler.
Yep.
So there won't be a discrepancy in
The
Art's
logs.
Yeah.
Because he had to get new clothes.
Yeah.
They put his old clothes in, take the new clothes out. Yep. And then Tapon gets reconnected with her people, and they're like, "Can we give you a hug?" And
Yeah.
he's like,
Oh.
No. And so she goes, "Okay, well, this is me giving you a hug," and she
Hugs
gives
herself.
herself a hug.
Yeah.
And then he is on his way somewhere else, and we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And that's the end. But
He gets paid. He gets like a hard
he gets his
currency card.
$15.
Yeah.
Hard currency. He can use it to buy shoes.
Yeah. Shoes. He does buy shoes, actually, because his feet don't look even remotely human, which he mentions several times.
Oh, really?
His not in these two books, but eventually he's like, his feet are the only part of him that like no augmented human would even have those feet. His feet don't look like.
Do they look like metal?
I don't know, but he'll put
They
boots
look like
on.
the Terminator hand.
I love
on
how
the
much he
toes.
likes his pockets.
Yeah,
Everything he gets
because
has
he didn't have pockets on his. I thought I did notice that when he described his uniform without pockets. I was like, "What the fuck? Everybody needs pockets."
Yeah,
pockets
it had
are
no
a power
pockets.
tool.
And now it always gets stuff with a bunch of pockets, and it's always carrying a bag, like a rucksack full of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. I really liked these stories. I really was really I dig this. It's different.
good.
It's very different than
It's very
anything I've
different.
read in a long time.
Yeah, it's a good, if you've read a lot of like smutty, spicy stuff,
Fantasy.
fantasy.
The sci-fi is, but I also love that it's written by a woman, and I can tell.
I love that it's fantasy, but it feels very real world. It doesn't feel, not fantasy, sci-fi, but it feels
Yeah.
very real world. It doesn't, it feels
grounded.
It's grounded, yeah.
It's emotional. there is a intellectual and emotional element that keeps you connected to it, where you're not just like completely put out,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
just like
Sometimes we can get too far out, too sterile, too like
so unrelatable. Yeah.
yeah.
That you can't. I mean, it's just easy to connect to the story.
It is. Yeah, cuz the people feel very much like just regular people in space. They don't feel like some elevated version of humanity.
No, they feel like they are making dumbass decisions and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Except for Dr. Menza, our smart lady.
I do like Dr. Mensa.
Yeah. So who did you cast?
Oh, so I only did
You only had to do 2.
I know, but I did the top 2. I did Mensa
And
and Murderbot.
who'd you do?
Well, I figured Mensa, I like Viola Davis for Mensa.
Oh yeah.
Just that, like, she'd be the perfect embodiment of that strength and just, like, I could see her pulling off all of the. Mensa is inwardly freaking the fuck out, but
Yeah.
outwardly holding it together.
Yeah.
Which then she'll joke with Murderbot about it.
Yeah.
And he realizes how upset she really is, and so he'll joke back with her. And they have like a joke signifier in the feed, which I guess is just like a little JK, like
Yeah.
like haha, that was a joke, which he only uses with her, which I love.
Yeah.
Because that's the only person Murderbot feels comfortable being that like vulnerable with. Mm-hmm. And then for Murderbot, I really think Timothée Chalamet would be a good Murderbot.
You think?
Well, I like the idea of him as that because he has a very good, I think he could be androgynous extremely.
He can be androgynous.
Because you'd have to have you couldn't have a hyper masculine looking character for Murderbot. It wouldn't work. You have to have that blend of like feminine features and masculine features, because if you had like Henry Cavill,
That's who I picked.
I mean,
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
I'm not saying I wouldn't watch Henry Cavill as
I'm not
Murderbot.
kidding. I'm not
I
kidding.
would.
Because I think that there is something.
When you get Henry slimmed down a little bit,
So
when we don't have the like chunk Henry, I think he could.
So because
yes.
they're built to be security units,
Yeah.
in my mind, I picture, but what I think would be a really cool duality in a show would be this masculine, like seemingly strong body, but you could play the character androgynously.
Yes, yeah,
And that juxtaposition
and Henry could pull that off.
could be really cool.
Yeah, he's a good enough actor. I think he could do that.
Or somebody. So when because I, part of me was like, oh, Tilda Swinton, or the girl or the non-binary actor,
Yeah,
that just played on Game of Thrones, somebody that is non-binary,
yeah,
right? But
Would
then I
suit,
was,
yeah.
But then I was like, but then Henry Cavill, I can also imagine how if you could pull off the energy and the aura of someone who did not connect,
yeah,
but still had a body that was built to be strong, because it is,
yeah.
then potentially.
So here's an interesting question. So when we get, which hopefully we will soon start to see more representation of non-binary characters in media, is that like casting Scarlett Johansson as the Japanese main character?
Kind of. It depends. Sometimes it just depends on what it is. But
Yeah.
I think I
think if you're doing justice to the character, like
Yeah.
if you,
but this,
you'd have to get Henry Cavill to embody all of the masculinity of Murderbot, where the like, I will literally break a fucking arm and I don't care. Like that's the least hard thing I've had to do today.
Yeah.
And I cannot look anyone in the eye. I will die if I have to look someone in the eye, because it is so wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you could get both of those, like the vulnerability and the strength out of an actor, I think it would work.
yeah. And I think it's different in a sci-fi or a fantasy novel because it isn't real.
Yeah. Well, this we end up in the Star Trek paradigm, which that was Gene Roddenberry's whole purpose for Star Trek is you can take all of these social issues, you can encapsulate them wholesale, and you can drop them in the future, and you can talk about all of this stuff on TV that you can't talk about in a modern day drama. But it's okay, guys. It's happening in space. It's not black people. It's Klingons.
It's Worf.
It's Klingons. It's not, whatever. It's not. And then you can have characters like Uhura, who was the first, like, main character who was a person of color on a television show ever. Yeah. And you get the first interracial kiss on TV ever is Star Trek. And so it works. That's why sci-fi really works, is you can really take a lot of these social issues and you can drop them into a safe space and you can explore them kind of in a sandbox.
Right.
And so that's why I love all of what she did with this world, because it feels very much like a sandbox for, like, what if we came to a place where all of this was just rote, non-binary characters, a gender that only exists on this one planet, whatever. Nobody cares. Everybody respects it. It's perfectly fine.
So there is I have talked about the show before and you've never watched it, but I really think it would be an interesting watch for you. And it's on HBO Max. You're welcome to my password if you don't have it. But it is Raised by Wolves, and there are 2 robots on it that kind of go through similar things as Murderbot. And one of the males is very androgynous looking, and he's also a large-bodied person. I mean, he's a male, being played by a male. But I think because of the way this character is described, these Secunits, regardless of how he identifies himself, are made to be large, strong beings. Yeah. They do not have breasts. They do not have signifiers.
Well, we don't actually get a description of
anybody.
Murderbot. Anybody, really. I mean, he'll do, like, skin tone and hair sometimes. He'll do skin tone and hair sometimes. But for the most part, it doesn't really describe. It never describes itself.
Yeah. So you could play around with that too then. Yeah. Yeah, maybe have a strong,
Who else did you cast?
Oh, David Tennant as Art.
Oh, yes. The voice of Art.
Yeah.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. With his accent.
Yeah.
Any accent.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
David Tennant as
just
Art.
David Tennant.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I really want Art to be somebody, like, super famous.
Yeah, well, you've got to be able to do the voice acting.
And Art is a big character.
Yeah.
So I think Tennant would do really well.
Huge character.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Hate to pick 2 white dudes, but yeah. It's straight white men.
I did do Gwathrin too.
Who'd you do for Gwathrin?
Well, do you remember Heroes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember Mahinder Suresh, the guy who played the Lake? He's in the first.
Yeah, he's super hot.
Yeah. Yeah, him. Why is he not in more?
I don't know.
His actual name, not Mahinder Suresh, is Senthil Ramamurthy. But for some reason in my mind, Gwathrin is Indian.
Yeah.
And so I feel like.
So is a couple of the characters in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just feel like he would do such a good job. So what are you looking for? What are you hoping for in the next 2 books?
So
2 novellas.
I was really hoping that we would start to get some revisits and the universe would expand a little bit more. Of course, I want the stakes to raise. I don't want it to be a Monster of the Week for too long. Right. Even though I do like Monster of the Week stories. I want the stakes to be bigger. And I want to see Dr. Menz again. I really want to explore the dynamic and the different versions of love and how a non-sexual love can come about between these 2 people. Of course, she's like, I think there is a romantic love that isn't necessarily like when we think romantic love, we assume it means that there's like a physical intimacy. Yeah. But I disagree with that. And I think there are versions of romantic love.
This is a complaint I have a lot about a lot of modern television and media is we've sort of dispensed completely with the idea of a non-intimate romantic relationship. where you can have a best friend. Like, you don't see a ton of anymore, like best dude. Well, you'll see like dude, bro, buddy, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't get the like, this is my girl. This is my best friend. And I would die for her, whether you are a male or a female character. But the like, I absolutely love you. And then the like long-term friendship that isn't going to lead to a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
We're not all waiting for them to just finally admit they like each other and get
Yeah.
together. But just like, which I read a really interesting article about Will and Grace. And they were talking about how Will and Grace was revolutionary in that because of the way the characters are set up, it completely removed the possibility of them ever getting together.
Yeah.
So they really got to have these two characters, this male and female character, that were best friends.
Yeah.
And that spent their entire time as best friends and were never going to be more than best friends.
Yeah.
And they could be like ride or die for each other, but they were never going to get together physically.
Yeah.
And so I always love it when we explore that because it's easy to add not easy, but when you get the like spice or the implied spice or the like Bones where they were best friends, but you always knew eventually they were going to get together.
They were going to get married. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're going to have a baby together.
I mean, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
fine for a little while, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
it's-
as a human that has had really deep and strong friendships with the opposite sex, like, yeah, you don't see that a lot.
No.
And I think a conversation that is happening is like the friend zone thing where there's no such thing as the friend zone.
no, that's
like,
that's some incel bullshit. I
yeah,
got
and that like
friend-zoned.
you don't that like you're always just back burner or waiting
Yeah.
to be put
Like every relationship has to lead somewhere physical or it needs to peter out. Like
yeah, and
it.
that's just not true. And
Right.
I have some really good buddies, and I said for a really long time, like I actually struggled with the friend zone argument because I had buddies that I would say they were in the friend zone, and I didn't mean it in that like, what I meant was there was this comfort and boundary that it would never exist. It never needed to be anything different.
Right.
And they would have said the exact same thing. And it was, like that's what, it's like, do I have to describe them as brothers? They're not my brothers.
Yeah.
They're my buddy. They're like
Your
my friends.
Your friends.
Yeah. And it's a genuine, they still reach out. How are you? They're
Yeah.
the first people to like all my posts. If I wanted to genuinely care about their lives, but there was never any kind of romantic anything.
Yeah.
And, you got to be careful about people who say that can't exist. Well, maybe to you.
Right.
So do you not value women as a person?
Yeah. That you can't just be friends.
Or for me, I have to be careful to not think of men as, I don't know, I
Yeah.
have to be like, oh, men are people too.
But I think Murderbot set up very much like Will and Grace.
Yeah.
Where we have removed completely the idea of romantic intimacy, like physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Murderbot is completely uninterested, has given up the opportunity to even have the option.
Asexual.
Yeah, is asexual.
And has no interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, and happy to be so. And feels no pressure from anyone to be any different. The only reason Art asked is because he was trying to help him pass. And so once Murderbot made it clear that, like, no, I'm not going to do that, Art dropped it. And
Yeah.
so we have this situation where Murderbot can have a lot of deep, meaningful, non-sexual relationships.
Yeah.
And so as soon as Murderbot figures out how to do that, then we
Yeah.
can explore that.
Right.
And so that is definitely something that, like, when I was reading these, that's what I was looking forward to as well, was
Yeah.
its growth, because it has already grown so much in the first two novellas. And it's really it's a journey of self-discovery. It's a coming of age. I mean, these are coming of age stories,
Yeah.
effectively, because Murderbot has been autonomous. Murderbot has cracked its governor unit years ago, but it's still been just
33,000 hours, my friend.
and so it's just been doing its job because it didn't know what else to do.
It was like 35,000 hours ago. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah, I cracked my unit 34,000 years, 35,000 hours ago, and I haven't gone on a murder spree yet. So I guess as a murder bot, I'm a terrible failure. And it's like, fine, fuck it. I failed at everything else. I'll just sit here and watch.
So how would you feel if at some point it evolved to wanting a closer connection and started to feel, and I think that's the thing, like we always think that it has to go there.
Yeah, I don't
like
think
even in
that
my
it
brain
would.
now, I'm like, well, what if it did though?
Well, I don't
But
think
it
its
doesn't have
go-to.
to.
I
It
don't
doesn't
think its
have
go-to
to.
is ever going to be physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Just like someone who's asexual, the go-to is never going to be like sex,
Right.
because that's not the kind of intimacy that Murderbot feels the most deeply.
Right.
And so,
They can't be touched.
no, it doesn't like to be touch is not comforting.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you're far enough down the spectrum, that's exactly what happens. Is touch is not comforting. Touch is antagonistic.
Yeah.
And so it's never going to be comforted by touching anyone or having anyone touch it. But
Yeah.
being in someone's presence is fine.
Yeah. Having someone that you don't have to explain things to and take care of, like Dr. Menza.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I probably would have cast Dr. Menza a little bit younger, but I'm not sure why. I love your casting. I don't know.
She's older in my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, she's a political figure. She's got years under her belt. She's really important.
Also, I have a friend whose last name is Mensa, and she's this beautiful Ghanaian woman.
Oh, yeah.
And so in my mind, as soon as she was Mensa, I was like, oh, she's this like beautiful
Yeah.
woman of color.
Yeah.
So
Is the author British?
Martha Wells? I don't think so.
Why is everybody a solicitor? Let's see. Where are you from? Where are you from?
Did you find anything frustrating about these books?
No, she's definitely American.
Yeah.
There was a disconnect in me listening to them. I couldn't.
So just incomprehension.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. It literally took me sitting down, not laying down, because I'm learning if I lay down and read, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
If I sit at my kitchen table and drink my coffee and have my story on and I'm looking at my story, then I can put those two, and I had to do both of those things. And I think I probably listened to them like 4 or 5 times.
They're that, I mean, yes.
Like I kept
probably read
missing
through
things.
them.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
There were like entire parts where I missed.
The novel is very much like that. So when we get to the novel,
Well, now that I've figured out how I have to absorb it and like get the reading comprehension piece of it, I know how to do it. But what this is, it's all encompassing. I can't do anything else while I'm doing this. Well, with my audibles, I like to do things while I'm listening.
well, a lot of those high fantasy, especially the high fantasy we've been reading lately, there's definitely parts where you could tune out and come back and you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a switch. It's just learning to it. I don't really have anything.
Any major complaints?
No.
Yeah. They're very complete and compact and dense.
And they don't have to be anything more than
What they
like
are.
what they are.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy I understand when I finish them. I'm like, oh, I understand why this won all these awards.
Yeah.
This makes sense. This feels novel to me. It feels like something I haven't read before. I can tell that a woman wrote them.
Yeah.
Just in the like nuance of the emotional connection and the way that I just find typically, and I could be, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
That typically women writers are better at writing like the subtleties of human emotion.
Yeah. Connection and interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
they're good character writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. So how about you?
No, I love these books unconditionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only complaint is when she tries to move bigger pieces when we get to the novel, she's trying to really strike a balance between like the need to describe what's happening and the need to describe the situation you're in, like the scene you're in, the set that this action's taking place in, and Murderbot's just general disinterest in what's happening around them. So she is really trying to like give us everything from Murderbot's point of view and give us a complete picture without it feeling out of character for Murderbot to notice all this stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine that being challenging in a book.
So sometimes that's a lot of heavy lifting.
Is the book entirely in first person past?
Yeah, everything's from Murderbot's point of view.
Always.
There's one thing that's from Mensa's point of view, but we can read that at the very, very end. There's like a short story that she wrote, like the deleted chapter.
Oh, okay.
It's extremely short, and I have it. You can just borrow it from me because I think I had to pay for it, or you can find it sometimes. But everything else is always from Murderbot's point of view.
Right.
And
I want Murderbot to have a name.
Secunit.
MB.
Murderbot. Well, Murderbot, of course, is its private name. Everybody else calls it Secunit.
I want to call it something different because I don't want it to, it's not a Murderbot. It's a savior bot.
And it gives itself names sometimes, but they're not its name.
Its names are shamey and guilty, and I want to have something healthier. So I'm going to call it MB or Eden.
MB. Eventually. Yeah. Oh, it's not Rin yet. It names itself Consultant Rin eventually.
In another story.
Yeah.
When it's trying to hide who he is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they only call it. And eventually it has to get a feed tag. You know how everybody has a feed tag. And it agonizes over this feed tag. Because it's like
is your name. Is a feed tag like a
your name and gender? Yeah, it's like your name and gender.
Oh.
It's like an ID.
It doesn't have to have a gender in this universe, though, does it?
I mean, you could say, like, I think his says not specified. Or,
yeah.
Or not applicable. That's what he puts. Not applicable.
That's smart.
Next time we're going to do the next two novellas.
Yeah, next Monday.
And that's, I don't have my phone, but I have my Kindle, which it gives me ads based on my reading preferences.
Duck Stranger.
They're always hysterical.
What else does it offer you?
Kinds of different
So
stuff.
wait, tell me about the 3 books that you read on your 2-day vacation.
It wasn't 2 days.
Tell us the 3 books you read.
I read
Wing and Serpent Night.
Yeah.
Serpent and Wing Night.
And the serpent and the wings of night. You messed me up.
Oh, it makes sense if you think about the story.
Yeah, because she's the serpent.
Yeah, and he's the wings of night. Oh, I knew that the first moment when we saw him with his red black hair and his purple jacket, I was like, "Ooh, that's our man." Let me tell you, I'm only like 3 chapters into it, but because they're using the F word a lot, I'm like, is this gonna have some spice in it?
A little bit.
Like PG-13 spice?
Yeah, PG-13. I mean, we get a little, we get like an R moment. Exit strategy and fugitive telemetry. That's the next 2.
Exit strategy? Didn't you read something like Psalm of Night?
Oh, no, I'm telling you, you asked me what the next 2 books. The next 2 novellas
sure.
Murderbot. It's just my Kindle's slow because it's old. Exit strategy and fugitive telemetry.
Okay, those are our next 2 books for next week.
And I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is excellent. And
I'm reading that right now, and I literally cannot wait to get home and read it.
I couldn't figure it out. She did a really good job. If I can't figure out your ending by a third of the way in.
You couldn't figure it out?
No.
Don't tell me anything, because I'm so into it that I'm having like ADHD I'm hyper focused on it.
Yeah.
And like I want to skip work to read it.
It's really good.
I switched my agent duty around.
You mentioned that.
So I could read everything today.
Yeah. I also read The Never King, which I think we should cover just because it was a reverse harem, but also a interesting exploration of age of the heroine.
How old was she?
18.
Fuck that.
Versus the types of sex portrayed.
She was a teenager?
Yeah. Oh, we need to read it just so we can discuss it.
Okay. What is it called?
The Never King.
It's reverse harem?
Yeah.
With multiple partners?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's rife for discussion. It's on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, sweet.
And then I read Psalm of the Wild Built, which Psalm of the Wild Built, ironically, the main character is non-binary.
Oh, cool.
Which it works really well in the story. And I always love it when it's not a part of the plot. It's just who the character is. Just like a main character is a woman or a main character is a man. It doesn't drive the story forward. It just is it's just their gender.
Right.
And so this particular main character didn't have a gender.
Sure.
And it worked for the
Yeah.
whole story. Everything was really great in it. And it reminded me a little bit of like a modern day Siddhartha. Did you ever read Siddhartha?
We had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's more of a like an exploration of purpose and religion, but it was really, really good.
Okay.
And the whole storyline was really good. And I kind of want to read all the rest of the stuff that this woman has written because it was so good.
Oh, okay.
And the main character is Sibling Dex, and they are a acolyte or like a monk of the god of small comforts.
Oh.
So one of their other monks wrote like a treatise on beds and the importance of having a comfortable bed.
It is the most important thing in the world.
And I was like, I don't have a religion, but I would fully support following the god of small comforts. It was like the main character, Sibling Dex, is a tea monk. And they travel around, and literally what their outreach, their like missionary is they have like a like an RV, and they will pull up to a spot.
I was going to say a mobile kiosk.
And they'll roll out like a carpet with a bunch of plush cushions and like a little table and a boiling kettle. And people will just come and tell them their problems, and they'll make them a special tea blend and send them on their way. And they'll just sit and have a hot cup of tea together.
Wow. That sounds like a moon of sanctuary.
It was a good break after Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is intense.
Okay.
And
I'm so happy to go home and read.
And then The Never King, which was intense in a different way.
Sure.
In a like, what am I reading?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need something with no sex in it. So I read that, and I was like, oh, this is great. I'm so happy I read this. So
Okay.
I think it'll be a good
Balance.
thing for us to move through.
Okay. Well, I can't read 3 books in 2 days, so
You don't have to do that.
I have to read so much.
I was thinking, so we're splitting the pod. I don't know if anybody knows that or not.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
splitting
You
the
are.
pod.
And I get to have my picture with your beautiful face.
So we're going to have Book Pod, which will be Strange and Beautiful Book Club, us. And then we're going to have Movie Pod. So
Yeah.
we're going to split the 2 pods. But I was thinking, if we get to like a big book, like Silver Flames again, and you can't make it all the way through, we can chunk it up. We can do like half the book.
Yeah.
And
Well,
half
and
the book
we
or
might
whatever.
need to do something like that for a book that both of us haven't read.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week with the next 2 novellas of Murderbot
Yup.
by Martha Wells. If you want to find out
Rachel
information,
will read them in 30 minutes, and it will take me 4 days.
if you want to find out information about us, just go to the Instagram. I mean, everything's on the Instagram.
Yep.
I post on there, not obnoxiously, but fairly
I
regularly.
think that you're really good at it. I don't think
Thank
you
you.
give yourself credit. Your reels are very unique.
Oh, thank you.
And not
you know how much I
stupid.
struggle with the reels?
No, the
'Cause
reels are great.
It feels like I don't know. I was trying to think, like, classify it to myself the other day, where you're like exploring a new medium and you do all of the stuff that nobody else does, or all the kitschy stuff that everyone else avoids because you never ever do it, and so you don't know it's overdone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's not overdone. It's just, yeah, I hear you too.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that with my business page. I try not to pay attention to what other people are doing, but then sometimes you do a trend. I think your reels are unique, and that's enough.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to be. I don't.
They don't have to be
Yeah.
on trend.
I was just trying not to come off as like a 40, like my mom trying to make Instagram reels. That's not the tone I was trying to set.
That isn't how they read.
Okay, good.
They feel thoughtful, but like they're not bad. As long as they're not bad reels, they're like done intentionally. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy with unique. I'm happy with
unique and enough.
Could you like watch a couple of reels, just sort of figure out the feel, and then go back and try your own? So I'm good.
No, they're fine, and I think I always appreciate people who are leading a thing instead of following a thing. And I feel like your reels have potential for leading.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Does that
feels
make
like
sense?
pressure. Yeah.
No, just be you and
Okay.
make the reels.
Well,
and
be me, I can do.
the show will shine through.
That's what I'm just like, I can't maintain inauthenticity. I'm not going to be able to keep up a character.
Right.
So I'm just going to have to be me and just
Dude,
let the chips fall where they may.
The last reel I made, I literally did a voiceover of me going, I got the flu and lost the ability to lip sync. So here's some static pictures with some transitions. And in my mind, that's hilarious. But
well, I don't get the, like, I don't know, the lip syncing just feels very...
like, it's a talent. Not everybody's made to do that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what platform it feels like where everybody would, like, hop on each other's stuff.
The entertainment media feed.
I guess, yeah. It's very, except for Sanctuary Moon, which is sacred.
Yeah, the rise and fall. Wait, what were you saying? Like, it feels like a different platform?
There was a platform where it felt like that, where everybody would, like, hop on each other's content.
Well, it's trends. TikTok does that.
Yeah.
Vine?
Maybe Vine was what it felt like, where it was very...
That's the thing to do.
You repeat what everyone else is doing because you're hoping to hop on the coattails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trending. And that's like, you know...
Clout chasing.
Clout chasing.
As the kids say.
She, like, kicks her feet up.
To the kids.
Yeah. I know. It's hard. And it's just like... social media is so hard.
It is so hard.
It's so...
Such a love-hate thing.
And it just takes so much energy, but it's so relevant in getting exposure.
And ours is particularly relevant because I keep it updated. So I'm going to keep... So check it. I do have a link tree at the top. Has all the links in it. Has our website. Has our submission form.
Do you have to pay for link trees?
No, I didn't. It just has branding on it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Patreon, whatever. Everything's in there. Feel free to go check it out. Do follow us. I am up to 23 followers.
Hell yeah. When we get to 50,
23.
When you get to 50, we will eat a cupcake.
I will. I'll eat a cupcake and I might film myself doing it.
Can I hold the camera?
We'll see.
Okay.
That's the part that I know is going to be the hardest for me is like people put themselves on.
Which you don't have to.
I know, but it's...
Yeah, I know. And that feels hard.
Yeah.
And that's also generational. Like,
yes.
It's I remember when we first started seeing selfies and I would be like, there was a time period where it was not socially acceptable to take a picture of yourself in public.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it was cringy to watch someone take a picture of themselves. And now it is just a regular, normal thing. And maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
Because who's going to hate on someone loving themselves?
No.
No one. But it doesn't mean that it's not hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little sex body for me. Don't look at me. I'm not a sex
yeah.
bot. Yeah.
Comfort bot.
Comfort bot.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're reading these. I'm excited. How much time is that?
It's fine, but don't look at it because a lot of it I'm just going to take
How much time is it though?
3 hours.
Holy shit, that's our longest one.
No, it's not. I think one of our first ones was 3 hours and 20 minutes long.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's good.
Okay.
All right.
Well, good night.
Good night, friends.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you keep listening.
Listen to us.
Is it hot in here or is it just me? Tuning in to hear these three chatting about fantasy novels of the spicy variety. Not your average book club, if you know what I mean. Are you happy to see us? Or is that a dagger? It's feast, sheath, shatter. It's feast, sheath, shatter.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it would to blend in, it would have to have a holeless butt cheeks.
Yes, unless that's a data port.